Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Lusigi, and I'm the resident representative for the United Nations Development Program in India. I've been here for just under a year, so I finally feel that I'm coming home because I'm an agricultural economist by training. And over the last 25 years, I've worked for IFAD, FAO, UNEP, and UNDP. And I think I'm most at home when I'm trying to see how policies actually lead to action and how data drives decision making to change lives and livelihoods. So I think I'm in the right place today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you. Yeah, that's right. You are going. So those who have joined online, may I request you to please briefly introduce yourself. I can see Dr. Mathur. Dr. Nan, okay.
Dr. Nand, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Nan, working as a visiting professor at ICRIER right now. I had worked for almost 39, 40 years for fertilizer sector in Fertilizer Association of India, retired as Additional Director General. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, but okay. So let him join back. So with this brief introduction, yeah, maybe. Okay, Dr. Mathur, may I request you to please briefly introduce yourself?
Hello.
Yes,
Can
Dr.
you hear
Mathur,
me, sir?
please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning, everyone here. First of all, my apology not to be present in person here due to some family commitments and my health issue here. But I'm very happy to join this important meeting today in the ICRISAT. I have a long association with the ICRISAT, and visiting ICRISAT is always a pleasure for me because when I was working with NEPGR for almost 10 years, we have a lot of joint program between NEPGR Gene Bank, ICRISAT Gene Bank here, and I was coordinating the whole program. But after leaving NEPGR in 1995, when I joined Biodiversity International, my appointment was through ICRISAT and hosted by ICRISAT for a few years. So it's good memories with ICRISAT, and I'm sorry missing joining this group today here. Basically, after leaving ICRISAT, after leaving ICR for almost 18 years of service, working with IGFRI Jhansi and with NEPGR, I joined the Alliance of Biodiversity International in 1995 and worked there for almost 21 years on various positions, starting with South Asia Associate Coordinator, South Asia Coordinator, then Regional Director for Asia Pacific Oceania, and finally retired in 2016 as a Regional Director for South and Central Asia here. But after my retirement, I still continue working as a consultant with the Alliance of Biodiversity International. Also have my consultancy contract with UNDP, with Dr. Ruchi Pant here, and also working with the trust, what we know as Karak House Trust, which is founded by Professor Edwin Southern. And there I am coordinating a program on stress-tolerant orphan legume crops, working both with the ICR, NVPGR, and African partners here. So very happy to join you all, and I will be there in the meeting full time here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and Dr. Mathur. I think we can also see one more person there. May I request you to please introduce? No, okay, I think in the process they may join. Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your brief introduction. And it was really a kind of music for me to hear your connection, many of your connection to ICRISAT. Some of you worked very briefly for 40 years and writing books here and with all nature and everything. And of course, before arriving to this hall, we have already agreed for 2 more big programs, not signed, but it is almost signed. And Dr. Gulati is the person for that. Let me also announce, one is for photovoltaic. So we are going to establish a research, come demonstration, come energy, and all kinds of things, kind of center over here. And Dr. Gulati is going to work very closely and guide us on this particular aspect. And the second one is what Madam Pant suggested, that we would like to have some area for biodiversity conservation and the agrobiodiversity conservation, something like that. Already Government of India is finalizing all those kinds of things. And once those guidelines are finalized, probably we are going to meet very soon, so that we shall also work together, ICRISAT and of course your authority. Of course, these are very, very informal. And in return of these two, I have already committed to Dr. Gulati that we are going to give him office space to write another book here. Yeah. But anyway, okay, so these are some of the things. Thank you very much and welcome each and every one. But I think now we can start, Madam, the formal program. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Since we've already had a welcome by Dr. Pathak and a round of introductions, to formally inaugurate today's proceedings, I have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Stanford Blade, Deputy Director General Research and Innovation, ICRISAT, to give the welcome address.
Well, thank you very much. And again, it's so good to have everyone here. Just to acknowledge the esteemed members on the dais. It's so good to have everyone here. I worked for several years in West Africa, and there is a beautiful phrase, all protocols observed. So as opposed to acknowledging all of our superb colleagues here, I will just take that particular format in tow. Of course, to welcome all of you here that you've already heard from the introductions, I have a very good sense that we are all amongst friends. Whether we are new friends or old friends, we look forward to the fact of getting to know one another and to exchange ideas and activities. As our Director General has acknowledged, ICRISAT is part of the CG system, and our ethos is around transforming dryland agriculture. We do that, of course, in Asia, but also in Africa with a number of the activities that we are very involved with. And as Deputy Director General, Research and Innovation, I have the great privilege of overlooking the research enterprise of ICRISAT. We do that within three particular areas around accelerated crop improvement with respect to resilient farming systems, and then around all things around enabling systems transformation, which very much includes much of the policy discussion that we have today. I would just remind all of you, you know ICRISAT so well, but really we connect agriculture to food, to nutrition, to human health, but we do that on a foundation of work in economics, in biodiversity, in soils, in water, to make sure that we can fulfill that, that vision very much of transforming dryland agriculture. When I think about the topic today, I am trained as a plant breeder, but of course, as I think Dr. Janilla has already reminded us, agriculture and biodiversity have really been connected right from the very genesis, the very start of agriculture, as we've taken advantage of this. I would have to say also to thank Dr. Kuldeep Singh and others for his work. And when I think even here in ICRISAT, of 130,000 plus accessions, that remarkable jewel of a gene bank where all of those characteristics, all of those traits that we've needed up until now, but that we will need into the next 10, 50, 100 years reside within that gene bank. So no doubt biodiversity becomes a key element, but I think we here will have a discussion about some of the policy initiatives. We know how policy and support around agriculture and food occur, certainly within India. I, along with Dr. Gulati, would say I'm a lifelong learner. When I saw the précis talking about the fact that program support within India reaches almost 2% of the GDP, it gives you a sense of the investment that's being made. And of course, we know why that is, around support to farmers, to making sure around livelihood, support for input, all of those things that you know better than I. But it also gives us a new lens, and I'm sure this is what we will discuss today, about how that investment can help to support biodiversity, how it can make new opportunities for investing in research and development, in capital infrastructure and other kinds of activities. So I'm very much looking forward to this day. Again, you're very welcome to the campus here in Patancheru and to enjoy the time that you spend with us. And we're certainly looking forward to the new activities that will be occurring as well. So thank you again. I'm very much looking forward to the deliberations of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Blade. Now, I am honored to invite Dr. Ashok Gulati, Distinguished Professor, ICRIER, to deliver the introductory remarks.
Thank you very much, Purvi. All protocols done. I'm supposed to introduce the topic, and the topic's title is Repurposing Public Policies and Programs in Agriculture for Protecting Biodiversity. Before I come to policies and programs and what this study is about, I want to spend a minute on the backdrop, why we are concerned with biodiversity today. Our tribe of Homo sapiens, the mankind, it took us almost 300,000 years, 300,000 years, all coming from Africa. In 1804, we were 1 billion, we multiplied to 1 billion. 300,000 years, 1 billion. Next billion on this planet was added in 123 years. By 1927, we became 2 billion. That is 1927. 2025, we are more than 8 billion people on this planet. Planet cannot feed this much population on its own natural strength. I remember Norman Borlaug saying once that this planet has a capacity to feed maximum 4 billion people on its natural base. Who are the other 4 billion people who would like to volunteer to starve to death?
Yeah, but I think it's better if we join from the conference room, no? But Rajkumar के बिना हम नहीं कर सकते हैं?
Can you mute
Like I don't
them?
know how to do the individual.
Colleagues,
Yeah,
the
for
people
proposal.
online, if you wouldn't mind muting your microphones, you're coming through into the conference room. Thank you very much.
It can be muted right here. So, if humanity had to survive, it had to produce more to feed the stomach. And that's where agriculture, from hunter to cultivation, and then to industrial cultivation in a way, started off. When we started doing that, we started, in a way, the forests were cleared. Then from the same land, we won 3 times, 4 times. Even in India, when we got independence, we were 35 crores. Today, we are 144 crores, 4 times more. And the planet and the boundary is the same. So you had to produce more. That was the first condition, because we had to survive. So when you do that, and in the race to produce more, which was a necessity, and I want to give one little example. If you do not do that, in China, between 1958 to 61, the Great Leap Forward, 30 million people died of starvation. 30 million, 3 crores lost their lives because of starvation. India did not have that type of a situation, although we were very close to it in mid-60s when we had 2 years of successive drought. And that's how the Green Revolution was brought in. Not the Green Revolution of this council, Green Revolution, but the original Green Revolution. And within 4 or 5 years, from a hugely deficit country in food, we were more or less coming to self-sufficiency. And today, except pulses and oilseeds, but we are a net exporter of agriculture today. Very few countries. China is the biggest net importer of food today. Even US, which people say is the largest exporter of agriculture, actually is a net importer of agriculture. The imports of agriculture are more than the exports of agriculture. India is the only big, large country which is still a net exporter of agriculture. So there is something good we have done. But in that entire process of producing more and feeding our largest population, we have neglected some of the things. Soil became a victim, groundwater became a victim, even the air became a victim, even the biodiversity. So what we call SWAB, soil, water, air, and biodiversity. So that had to be. Now that India has emerged as the largest exporter of rice in the world, of 61 million tons of global export of rice, 20 million is by India alone. So quite a bit going to Africa. So having done that reasonable self-sufficiency and some surpluses, I think it's time to give back to nature what we took away from nature, improving soils, improving our groundwater, our air quality and biodiversity. Now this particular project, and thanks to UNDP, is looking into public policies which impact biodiversity. To the best of my knowledge, this would be the first ever study which is looking into the public policy and public expenditures, because policy is in government is not by one line item, it can be just 50 crores program, but there could be another 150,000 crores program. So we have looked at 46 schemes of the government, central government basically. And then when we went to 3 states, of course, some of the important policies of the states have to be added. 46 schemes, 87 sub-components of that, and 25 years of data. From 2000 onwards, we have looked at what is happening. And then across 8 ministries, because the policies that impact agriculture and biodiversity is not only in agriculture ministry. The budget of, for example, fertilizer subsidy, which is resting in another ministry, is bigger than the entire budget of agriculture ministry. So how is that impacting? So we had to look at that. Another one, that food subsidy, than 2 lakh crores, is the biggest thing that is resting in another ministry. Then Manrega is resting in another. So we have looked at 8 ministries which impact the agriculture and also the biodiversity concerns, and how much is the expenditure, and over the last 25 years how that has been changing and impacting. We have made an impact whether these policies have negative impact, what we call the detrimental impact on biodiversity. There are mixed impacts, certain policies have something good and something bad also. We have looked at which we feel are positive impacting policies, and then there are certain policies which are neutral. I don't want to steal the thunder of Reena. She will be presenting the details of this study. But just to give you this flavor, and I'll take only one little example, because as I said, fertilizer subsidy is greater than the agriculture ministry's budget. So if you don't look at fertilizer thing, and you're talking about agriculture and biodiversity, you are missing the big elephant on the way. Fertilizer, it's very interesting. Fertilizer, along with high-yielding variety seeds and water, gave us the food security. But then what is happening on the fertilizer scene today, the public policy? Our urea is almost 85% subsidized, 85%. P and K somewhat less, and then most of the micronutrients almost negligible. So the farmer is tuned to putting too much of urea. Fertilizer means more urea, and especially in Punjab, Haryana belt, overuse of urea. We came to know that it is impacting the soils, it is impacting the crop health, and ultimately it is impacting the human health. I never knew earlier, before this study, that excess nitrogen use is leading to diabetes and thyroid problems. I had been taking thyroid tablets for quite some time and never knew that the wheat that I am consuming is causing this. So you have zinc deficiency in the soils, and zinc deficiency is leading to deficiency of zinc in wheat and rice, which is leading to stunting amongst children. The wheat of today, they say, is 33% less zinc than what it was in 1960s. So this whole imbalance that has taken place, the plant is not consuming more than 35 to 40% of nitrogen that is being applied, and rest is going in the environment, nitrous oxide, 273 times the carbon dioxide. If it is leaching into the water, nitrate content is increasing and causing cancer, and in Punjab, there is a cancer train that goes from Punjab to Rajasthan. So all these ill effects of today's policies, how these policies have evolved, and there is need to correct them today. Okay? We cannot blame these policies totally because these are the policies that gave us food security at some stage, but we need to repurpose. One important thing that I will say here, we are not advocating abolish all these subsidies. Politically, it is impossible. But repurpose that in a manner that they should not be directly detrimental to biodiversity concerns. And how to do that, that is an art of economics. Okay? Other countries have done it. So we are not the first ones. You go to China, they don't give fertilizer subsidy directly by hugely subsidizing fertilizer prices, but they give to the farmer what is called the aggregate input subsidy support on per hectare basis, per mu basis, their unit is mu. Can we do that? Can we do direct benefit transfer to the farmers and then deregulate this sector and let the market decide what the prices would be? The market will give that signal how much of N should be consumed, how much of P and K, and how much of zinc. And of course, we have to do some education extension work of the farmers, so what are the benefits. But once you deregulate the sector, the fertilizer sector and the industry will do innovations in products and compete in improving the practices. Within the same money, I can bet you can get double the mileage. You will improve your nutrient use efficiency from 35–40% to easily 55–60%, and if you use drip, it can be even 90%. And all those experiments and that revolution will be unleashed. This will be a reform like the 91 reforms for the rest of the economy. Agriculture needs deregulation. This is a huge investment in fertilizers. Similar thing is in food subsidy, which is more than 2 lakh crores. And you are giving free wheat and rice to more than 800 million people. And then you ask the people to consume millets. Who is going to consume millets when they are getting free wheat and rice? So the two things don't gel well. Why don't you give them food coupons of that value and ask them these 20 commodities, pulses, oilseeds, milk, anda, whatever you want to take, eggs, you can take that. Food which is more nutritious. So this is what the meaning of repurposing is. That instead of hooking only wheat and rice, which is much less nutritious than pulses or milk or eggs, why don't you give them that option? The moment you give that option, there will be diversification in the demand, and which will lead to diversification in the production basket. Because at present, since you are excessively giving rice and wheat to the people, farmers are producing rice and wheat, we have mountains of rice in the country, and that has caused imbalance in the production basket. So our study basically looks at different possibilities of repurposing. Again, I emphasize, we are not recommending abolish these, no. We are saying reorient, realign, repurpose them to make it from detrimental to biodiversity to at least neutral, if not positive. If you can make something positive, because you will save a lot of things. There are a lot of leakages in food and fertilizer subsidy, and if you can save something out of that and put it directly on the policies which are biodiversity positive, then it will be a win-win game. Productivity will remain same, diversification will take place on its own because the demand has diversified, and the soil, the swab, the soil, air, water and biodiversity will not be as adversely impacted as it is impacting right now. The policies that were right in 60s and 70s have outlived their usefulness. As they say, if the Ganga stops flowing, it will start stinking. The backdrop has changed, the policies must change. We are not in huge scarcity of basic staples, we are in surplus, and therefore new policies. What is that repurposing? That I will leave to Reena. Once again, thank you, Himanshu ji, for agreeing to host us, and maybe we can at some stage release that report we have. Yeah. Over to you, Purvi. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gulati, for setting the stage for today's discussion. Now to deliver the special remarks, I welcome Dr. Angela, to UNDP resident representative in India, to give her remarks.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, again, and namaste. I'm going to add one more, standing on the protocols of that. Allow me to stand on the protocols. So it's such a pleasure to be here today, and I want to join in thanking ICRISAT for hosting us in this beautiful campus, and I definitely will be back. And this is a really timely conversation, and you've heard all the passion already, all the reasons why we're here today. But I want to give you the arguments that are going to touch policymakers. You know, sometimes we come with the facts, it doesn't move. So I'm going to go through a few of the things that really are the story that is behind the work that we've done here today. So we're here to talk about a challenge, right? How do you produce more food, ensure economic security, and still protect the ecosystems that make both possible, right? And the study that we'll hear about later today, that was commissioned by UNDP under the Biofin initiative in partnership with ICRIER, is really about public spending can either drive ecosystem degradation and collapse, or it could become a force for regeneration. So nature's diversity is what sustains life as we know it, and it also supports our economies, it supports our health, it supports our food systems, and most importantly, our shared future. It makes economic sense to conserve biological diversity. We'll hear examples of bees that pollinate our crops, forests that purify our water and store carbon, wetlands that prevent floods. And we know that nature provides ecosystem services that are valued at about 140 trillion per year. So that already is something worth preserving. So if biodiversity collapses, so will jobs, so will food systems, and so will our economies. And we know that India is one of the world's most biologically diverse countries. And the fact that the government has recently updated its National Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan in 2024, congratulations to the team, is a strong signal that India is already working towards a nature-positive future. So the train is already moving. And here we are trying to support and accelerate that pace. At the same time, as was so eloquently mentioned, in many parts of the country, we are seeing the impacts of the overuse of chemicals, unsustainable water use, so that's already apparent. And it's an unintended consequence of the farm subsidies and the price support, because these incentives have encouraged farmers to grow wheat and rice and also discourage other nutritious crops. And just as an example, from 1960 to 2023, the area under wheat and rice expanded from 47 million hectares to more than 84 million today, while the land used for millets, pulses, and other traditional crops has dropped. As a result, it affects not only nature, but also, as has been mentioned, nutrition, soil health, and climate resilience. And we know that globally, governments spend $2.6 trillion a year on environmentally harmful subsidies. And this is why, and India is no exception, as we've heard, But this is why the Kunming-Montreal Global Diversity Framework to reduce harmful subsidies and promote those that help nature is so important. And India is at the forefront of implementing this. And I think you'll have seen the biodiversity targets here. So while India's investments in improving food security and reducing poverty through subsidies have been very productive, now is the time to mitigate the negative impacts by transforming biodiversity negative incentives into biodiversity positive investments. So that's why the study that we're discussing here is so important, because it offers real practical ways forward to transition from biodiversity negative policies and programs along those with mixed impacts to biodiversity neutral and biodiversity positive incentives. It shows, as was mentioned, how to repurpose the existing fertilizer subsidies and reorient agricultural priorities from just growing more grains to diverse food grains, while also offering premium support for low carbon crops. At no point in time do we want to see our farmers going without or with their livelihoods affected. But we're trying to change the way the incentives work so that we can maintain those incomes and even increase them, because if you're spending less on fertilizers and producing more, then everybody wins, right? So it will protect nature, keep income stable, and reduce the use of chemical fertilizers so that we look at climate smart farming, because we're also looking to the future, right? We don't want to make choices today that reduce the options for the generations to come. We want to support farmers to grow wider ranges of crops that have co-benefits for human health, the economic health, and also environmental health. So the good news is that India is already moving in the right direction. They're promoting greener policies like the PM Pranam scheme, the National Mission on Natural Farming. So there are already programs and systems in place that are moving. So what we need to do now is to accelerate this change through collaboration and teamwork. Ministry of Agriculture can't do it alone. We have to have the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Finance, Rural Development, all working together, and also working with farmers, businesses, researchers, and civil society for this to succeed. So I'd like to close by saying that conserving biodiversity is the only pathway to safeguarding our economies, our food, and our future. We now know what needs to happen. The study will tell us how, but the question is what next? And this is where UNDP comes in. We're proud to support the government of India and partners in moving from these policies and recommendations to concrete actions. We're committed to working with all of you to make this happen, because we believe with smarter policies and more efficient and effective use of public funds, we can protect biodiversity while also supporting strong and secure livelihoods for the next generation. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing the discussion today.
Thank you, Dr. Lusigi, for your remarks. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Himanshu Pathak to share his special address.
Thank you very much. Of course, Dr. Gulati, Angela, Dr. Reddy, Stern, and all very distinguished participants for this very important meeting. Just taking it forward. So first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Gulati, for giving the broad objective of what we are trying to do. Absolutely no question that repurposing has to be done because the purpose has been different. So when the purpose itself has changed, then with the same policy and same work plan and same activities, you cannot reach to other point when the whole objective has got changed. And at that point of time, when a policy was formulated, as you very rightly said, there was a need for that. But now the things are different. Things are different nationally, things are different internationally, things are different in food front, things are different in nature front, and in all others. So everything is almost different what it used to be, say around 40, 50 or 60 years back when all these policies, green revolution, everything started. So there is absolutely no doubt in our mind that there is a need to revisit, to repurpose the whole dimensions and paradigm of this policy. Again, there is absolutely no doubt that nature cannot be disturbed or compromised. You know, for my younger friends, not to our senior people here, the very first law of agriculture, which was formulated sometimes in 1830s or so, that law is called as law of restitution. Law of restitution means whatever you are taking from nature has to be given back if you would like to continue with the kind of production or the kind of services, including ecosystem services, whatever you are harvesting from nature. And that was the first law, law of restitution. Then, of course, all other rules and science and new things, all those come. So that is absolutely important. What we say in Hindi, and I shall translate it in English also, Pragati and Prakriti should go hand in hand. Pragati is progress, all this development. Prakriti is nature. So nature and development should go hand in hand. This should not be going in two different directions. And then if you go in two different directions, at one point or the other, you are going to collapse. Because these are so intricately related. One is fully dependent on the other. And nowadays we talk about One Health. Many of us might also be working on One Health. We talk of soil health, we talk of water health, crop health, and so on. If you disturb one, the other is going to be affected. If the soil is no good, then whatever you do, the crop is not going to be good. If soil is unhealthy, the crop is going to be unhealthy. If the crop is unhealthy, the animals or human beings who are consuming those, again, they are going to be unhealthy. And again, in Hindi, I tell it to our farmers also, and you can note it. We say Jal, Jamin, Jalbayu, Jangal, Janwar, Jivan, Janta. These are all so closely related. Water, soil, climate, forest, animal, human, and all their relations are so closely related. If you disturb one, the other is going to be affected. And you cannot escape. There is no science in this world so far invented which will escape you from this circle, from this One Health. So from that particular point of view also, we have to take care of, and when you talk of swab, certainly biodiversity is one of the very important aspects. Now, let me put before you some of the things which we are doing at national level and also at international level. And this will be giving you some broader ideas of what kind of repurposing or what kind of policies we should be formulating. Now, this biodiversity and its importance, it is not known earlier. It has been known for, from when we have started exploiting the biodiversity. Almost all the varieties, which you call them high-yielding or biofortified or climate resilient, somewhere or the other, we have developed all these varieties from some source, somewhere, from some germplasm collected from somewhere, and then we have put new science, new technology, and now we have got high-yielding varieties which are climate resilient, which are biofortified, and so on. So the base has always been that, and biodiversity conservation, not only first exploration, collection, conservation, utilization, and of course sharing or multiplication has been a part of not only national agriculture, but also at international agriculture. And CGIER, Consultative Group of International Agriculture Research, has really played a very important role for collection, conservation, and also sharing of all these germplasm. And if I give you some of the numbers, you'll be really feeling very happy that currently around 6 million accessions are conserved in over 850 national gene banks in 116 countries, 4 regional and 13 international gene banks which are registered. Besides, there are certain other gene banks also which are not registered, but then they are also working on that. In 11 CGIER gene banks, out of all these 15 CG institutes, 11 has got their gene banks, house around 0.8 million accessions of over 30 crops and their wild relatives. And if you come to ICRISAT alone, in ICRISAT, we have got 132,000 accessions. 132,000 accessions of 8 millets and 3 legumes. And we distribute annually around 80,000 to 100,000 germplasm all over the world, sharing with the researchers, with the students, and many other organizations. And since the inception of this organization in 1972, we have distributed 1.72 million seed samples to around 150 countries all over the world. And if you come to national system, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, we have got national bureaus for almost every commodity on which we are working. For plant, we have got NBPGR, National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, and there we have got a collection of 4.75 lakh acres of different crops. For example, for rice itself, we have got around 1 lakh. Besides this plant, we have got bureaus for animal genetic resources. We have got bureau for fish genetic resources. We have got bureau for insect resources also. We have got a bureau for important microbes, which we could find to be important for agriculture, and also bureau for soil and so on. So whatever, any commodity we can think of, we have tried to have some kind of bureau, collect the germplasm or other materials, preserve them, multiply them, and share with all other. And these are in the national system with the government participation. But besides this, if you go to informal sector, go to even farmers. Yesterday only I was in a tribal district of West Bengal, Bankura called. And there is one NGO which is preserving at least 12 to 13,000 of germplasm. They have collected from various tribal villages and locations, and they do not have, of course, these kinds of, cold storage, 4 degree or minus 20 degree or something like that. But they have developed their own system of collection, preservation with, earthen pots and those kinds of things, certain kind of space where the temperature is little bit moderated, not of course fully controlled. But then they are doing these kinds of activities for last many, many years or so. And this is not one example. There are n number of examples, not only in this country, even if you go to Africa or any other country. Again, in Africa, of course, we are all familiar with. They've got very unique kind of system of collection, preservation, also sharing the germplasm and other materials with their neighbors, with the fellow farmers, and so on. So these kinds of activities are going on. But then, in spite of all these efforts, still the problem of biodiversity decline or erosion, whatever term you can use, is really, really enormous. Again, there are lots of data on this. People say more than 35% of some of the biodiversity we have almost lost. And as the climate change, as the pollution level are increasing almost day by day, climate change is making almost record in every year or every month or so. Pollution level is also increasing in most part of the world. Because of this erosion of biodiversity is going to be even faster and faster. So when we keep all of these things in mind, certainly we really need to revisit and repurpose the overall policy of government and to sensitize people how important these are and what kind of policy we should be formulating. And I must congratulate Dr. Gulati and of course your whole team for taking up this issue, working on it, assessing, and then going through all kinds of data and literature, and then coming out with some kind of policy which you feel. Of course, we are going to release that particular publication now. So first of all, let me congratulate you and thank you and your team for taking up these very important activities. But before I conclude, one or two suggestions I would like to give for our discussion and for our elaboration later. Number one is, whenever we talk of preservation, collection, exploration, or whatever activities we do with the germplasm or biodiversity, science can really play a very important role in all of these areas. So whenever we are going to advocate for any policy, we really need to capture the role of science, which it has already played or which it is going to play in time to come. You know, a whole lot of new science, new tools have emerged. In today's world, this genome editing, AI, and all these kinds of things can really change the whole way of the things of working. The way we used to work, say, around even 5 years back, today we are working in a totally different kind of era. AI and genome editing, these are going to change almost the entire kinds of things. So how science and technology will be again a central part of the whole policy, and how we are going to harness the benefit of this new science and new tools should be a part of this one. Second, again, with little bit caution, Dr. Gulati, whenever we say something against the development of new science, green revolution, some people have got a tendency to exaggerate it. So, but we should be totally, our decision should be based on information, collection, analysis, and so on. Just for example, this cancer train. Just few days back, we are really going to write an article on that. This cancer trend is not only because of agriculture. Let me give one or two examples why it is not because of that. There are places where number of cancer patients are more, but they are not applying any pesticide in the tribal areas. So we cannot directly link it to pesticide use. Again, all those patients who are coming, they are not full from the rural areas who are directly in connection with this. And there are other examples also to show. So it is not always right to paint something which we cannot explain and then say it is because of this technology. So that might not be the case. Say pollution of groundwater with nitrogen, nitrate, they say. Again, the data shows, and not for 1 year data or many years data, that application of urea is not the real culprit for increased nitrate concentration in these waters. Rather, nitrate concentration is more in the city areas. From where that is coming? From all those organic waste material, sewage and so on. If nitrogen is there in organic sources, that will take more time to decompose and will reach to the groundwater. If it is urea, of course, it has got several negative aspects also. I'm not saying that urea is the perfect material, but then urea has one or two good qualities because of which it has become so popular. One is within 72 years, the whole urea will be hydrolyzed to ammonia. And then in another 2 or 3 days, it will be converted to nitrate. If that nitrate is not taken up by the crop, it will be denitrified, for example, in rice kind of condition where there is submergence of water, and converted back into nitrogen, which will go to the atmosphere. And even if that nitrate reaches, after some time, it will be denitrified. And so many samples of groundwater nitrate concentrations we have found in the rural areas where the fertilizer application is very high. There you will not find that the nitrate concentration is very high there. Nitrate concentration sometimes or more often is more in the areas where fertilizer application is quite less. So my suggestion is that as we are talking of a broader policy of how all these things should be addressed, we have to really go into the depth of the reason, the cause, why it is happening. If we do not go into that much depth, then probably we will be advocating something which is not based on science. And that will be, again, a kind of dangerous proposition in times to come. So friends, with these few remarks, once again, let me welcome each and every one of you. This is extremely, extremely important. As I said in the beginning, and Dr. Gulati and also Angela, you talked about, that we really have to rethink, we have to revisit and repurpose the whole thing, because the way biodiversity is declining, we cannot sustain it for so long. And once biodiversity is gone, we are going to lose several of the things. No new thing is going to come. And as they say, that nature is our only refuge. If we ignore nature, then probably nature also will start ignoring us. and then we will not be in a position to manage that condition of nature. So I really appreciate this effort and wish this discussion a very fruitful one. And of course, the policy proposition which we are going to make should be accepted, and all of us will be working together. And in the whole process, if you think that ICRISAT can be of any use in terms of partnership, in doing science, in conservation, taking it forward, demonstration, whatever way you feel, ICRISAT will be very, very happy to be a part of this very noble initiative. Thank you very much once again, and welcome each and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pathak. We now invite Dr. C. Achalender Reddy to share his keynote address.
Very good morning to everyone. Esteemed co-speakers on head table, Dr. Pathak, Dr. Angela, Dr. Gulati, Dr. Stanford, distinguished experts, policymakers, researchers, farmers. It's a great privilege for me to be here with all of you, to participate on a historical roundtable, I should say, because this type of roundtable was not held on such a topic earlier. I stand to be corrected if I am wrong. So every long journey starts with a small step, and the topic, the theme, the report, which is going to be released, prepared or steered under the able leadership of Dr. Ashok Gulati and his colleagues of ICRIER, and of course in collaboration with UNDP, is really a game-changing effort. To what extent we achieve success hereafter, time will tell. So friends, the already learned, my co-speakers have given a very deep insights, the background and the purpose for which we have assembled here. I had a autonomous and statutory body, so my language will be more or less more of a regulatory nature, which is generally not liked by scientists, citizens, intellectuals. So it will be having a tinge of that regulatory flavor here and there. But anyhow, I would like to adapt to the new environment and to share my random thoughts with the August gathering here. Friends, first I would like to say that there is a science, it may be soil science, genetics, breeding, whatever you may call it. But the Biological Diversity Act is an act, it's a legal instrument. When the act governs science, there are bound to be problems. The science is exact, it's evidence-based. Law is interpretative and it changes as the society evolves. So these are the issues in managing the, what I would say, genetic resources or biological resources, because I'm giving this background, because here the theme or the subject which we are dealing today, as of now, it is a new concept. There is no law, no regulation to say that you have to do like this, you have to put this much fertilizer or this much for biodiversity. It is nothing like that. It is all voluntary. This has come out. Evidence-based report has been prepared, thanks to ICRIER and UNDP and others. So just to say that what is biodiversity? Because biodiversity is a diffuse subject when compared to climate change. Climate change has made huge strides, huge progress, but conventions, both the conventions were adopted in 1992 at Rio, but the Biodiversity Convention is lagging behind, which I think Dr. Angela would agree with me in this respect. Because we have seen, I attended almost 4 COPs by God's grace or whatever you may say, luck, a person at the right moment, if he is there, he is pushed into the stream. So in the same way, I attended 4, and I was SBI chair also, subsidy burden implementation. So I got, I could see at a very close range what is happening, what happened, and what is going to happen. That means in the sense of this thing. So I will not, I will go now, directly into in today's this subject. Biodiversity, as we know, is the basic foundation for the progress in the agriculture. I need not explain, you're all experts, you understand what does it mean. So when I say random thoughts, you can see that only 3 crops, rice, wheat, and maize, contribute to more than 51% of the plant-based calorie to the humankind now. This was not so in the past. If you go industrial revolution, before industrial revolution, or at least 100 years back, if you go, this was not like this. And I should say that I also, of course, this is much can be said. I mean, you can differ with me, but as far as my knowledge goes, at least before advent of Britishers or before the advent of the industrial revolution, India was not deficient in food grains. It may be due to colonization or many other reasons or some whatever it may be. I can cite one example of this where we are sitting here. This was called Hyderabad state in the past. A part of Maharashtra, a part of Karnataka, the present Telangana. It was a completely dry land. Complete. Nowadays we got the irrigation. But during those days also, it started from 11th, 12th century. Kakatiyas have constructed series of lakes. Thereafter, Kuli Qutub Shah and others have come. The Nizam has become the richest person in the world. How? A Raja having no irrigation, nothing, having a dry land, because the farmers were they lived along with the nature. The example of Moksha, our 3 lakes, which supplied water to the Hyderabad, and it has become Pearl City of the world because of the gravity flow. That means what I mean to say is that nature they have utilized for the progress of the economy or the welfare of the people. I mean to say that they are more or less lived how to live with the nature and use it without spoiling the nature or without causing the damage to the nature. So now, as Dr. Gulati has mentioned, we have come to a full circle that now we are realizing that soil health. 20 years back, I never heard about soil health, or 30 years back. Human health we heard from this thing, but soil health, nobody at all. This terminology has not come into the day-to-day usage at international level or national level. So soil health means what? Soil biota, nothing but soil biota. And soil biodiversity. So keeping this point of in view, the repurposing of the incentives detrimental to biodiversity. In the sense that now we realize that soil biota is required for a marathon run, sustainable production. Short-term production, okay, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you can see apply fertilizers in a big way. As rightly mentioned by our DG ICRISAT, the regulated or self-imposed discipline in application of fertilizers will definitely will take care of the soil, but it rarely happens in the field. People apply, in such a way that more than required, especially the soils have become sterile, and we all know that organic carbon has decreased a lot in the Indian soils. It may be 0.1, 0.2, somewhere like that. It was once upon a time 2%. So this has a completely, undernourishment of the soil. Whatever may be the reasons are known and unknown. So what the purpose of this today's this thing is that now we have to sensitize about these losses, and articulation is required before the political executive and the policy makers. Baba, this is happening, and let us change the course of our journey from hereafter. Now let me quote some examples from the industrial sector. We all know Nokia was a very prominent mobile, but they didn't realize that smartphones are going to come, and they vanished. They did not change at the right time. Gone case. America was boasting about the big cars. Japan has entered with small cars, finished it. So before something happened to us, in the graph, while when everything is good, we should think from where the problem would crop up. So when we achieved self-sufficiency and we are exporting 20 million tons of rice to other countries, we should think that something may happen suddenly. And this happened in the health. This happened in the health sector. COVID has given a right shock to all of us. So because of the disturbance of the biodiversity, these things have happened, and it's going. They are going to happen. We are seeing nowadays also that the every microorganism, everything, they also like human beings. They also develop. They also evolve. They also develop resistance. This antibiotic resistance is very common now. So the point I'm trying to impress upon is that, as already mentioned by scholars here, Pathak ji and Gulati, the soil health is related to human health, and One Health policy is being, nowadays pushed by Government of India very, very seriously. Now, just for some statistics, this thing. The Kunming Monchal adopted for December 2022, Madam Angela has already mentioned. The overall targets we see 23. Now let us the focus of this study is a target 18, but 23 targets if you collectively see offers a roadmap to reverse the trend which we are moving forward in a very controlled way, in the sense that controlled aggression. As Dr. Gulati has mentioned, two extremes are bad. Too much application of fertilizer and suddenly stopping of fertilizer will lead to big problems in the country of 1.4 billion population. So what the target 18 mentioned, 500 billion, they estimated, of incentives which are harmful to biodiversity have to be reduced, in the sense that harmful subsidies have to be pulled back. 200, okay, positive, we have to invest. So total, they are identified 700 billion, to the extent of that one, we have to contribute to the biodiversity conservation. Both the negatives we have to bring down, contribute positives. So to that extent, valuation. Now, friends, I take little, this opportunity to share with you that India is one of the 46 countries which has released National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan out of 196 parties. For a country like ours, with all the difficulties, we could somehow make it in collaboration with the UNDP, the National Biodiversity Strategy, and with all the 23 ministries contributing their knowledge and their statistics, their information, we have released it. Now, the target 18, when it was articulated, the Kunming Monchal Global Biodiversity Framework, 2025 has been given to identify and all these things negatives. And 2030, we have to take action. But to be frank with you, having realized that our own country's problems, because these targets are never imposed, they never say that you have to follow. You follow as per your national circumstances and capabilities. So we mentioned what we did, they gave freedom. So we framed our own national biodiversity targets, capturing the spirit of the Kunming Monchal Global Biodiversity. We never mentioned any years and dates in our national biodiversity targets. So because our capabilities, our national circumstances are different from the rest of the 195 parties. We are 196 parties are this. So this is what I mean to say is that we have already taken care in the international when I attended, I was a part of a delegation. So we came back and we said that we cannot in toto copy and paste the target 18 as mentioned in the Kunming Monchal Global Biodiversity Framework. And there was a freedom given, liberty given to frame your own national biodiversity target. Each country has been. So we framed like that. That is what I wanted to highlight here before this August gathering. Now, coming to another point, I would like to, you may be, you must be knowing it, but I would like to repeat it. When people said that, oh no, this has to come down, this has spoiling the health, and so what I would like to highlight is that we have only 2.4% of the land area, supporting about 17% of the human population, almost 16% of the cattle population of the world. And still, we are considered as one of the 17 mega biodiverse countries. Thanks to the people of India, they are undergoing a lot of problems by keeping this as a mega biodiverse country. You may ask me why. You see, The man-animal conflict is going on in our country. Daily one person is being killed, either by a bear, or by a tiger, or by a leopard. The sacrifices which we are making this country to remain one of the 17 megabytes is huge. If I may be permitted to say, entire Europe has no primary forest. It is all artificial forest. We have still huge chunk of primary forest. With this amount, quant population. So biodiversity angle that, because when we discuss with media, intellectuals, policymakers, especially political executive, these are the things, because we are all here to push the idea of repurposing. Then for that, some background has to be given. That's what I am trying to share with you, not that you do not know about it. Now, two things. Out of all the subsidies which are this thing is chemical fertilizers, irrigation, power, which are given freely, almost freely, of course, to some extent discharged. And this has resulted in huge rice and wheat cultivation. And this trend has to be, we need to articulate and present before the powers that be, that Baba, kindly think about your own grandsons and future this thing. If you want your lineage to survive in this world, better you think. Then they will understand this thing. Now, I would like to make one provocative suggestion, which you may or like it. The Forest Conservation Act, after having come, it has greatly reduced the diversion of forest land to the non-forest purposes. I see all over whenever I go from Hyderabad to Warangal or any other Bangalore, this thing, all beautiful, very fertile agricultural lands are being converted to real estate. So that is a huge loss of biodiversity. That soil we cannot, the soil scientists are here, or scientists, DG Saab may agree with me that in order to form a soil, it takes hundreds of years, 1 centimeter of soil. We are not realizing it. I'm not saying that a real estate should not be there building. I also need a house and this thing. But the way, the freely, without any regulation, the fertile agricultural lands, we have a land capability classification, soil scientists know about it. So we can identify some certain lands cannot be. So like Forest Conservation Act, Agricultural Land Conservation Act also has to come into play. Then only this mad diversion of very fertile agricultural lands can be curtailed. But this is a very sensitive subject, and political executives may not like in the instances, but those who are interested really in the society, they agree with it. At least in morally they agree, they will not speak out externally under present circumstances. So this is one of the major steps India has to take, because you cannot survive with this 1.4 billion people and converting all. I'm not saying that other agricultural lands, we have a land capability classification, everything. So the highly fertile soils cannot be diverted. It's a crime. That is my personal view. I'm not saying that all of you should agree with that. So this trend has to come out to conserve the biodiversity. It is a policy issue. We are also dealing with the policy issues as of now. Now, I would like to give what is the soil and soil health and such thing. A practical example, which is going to become, once it is implemented and once it is taken to logical conclusion, it is going to create sensation in our country. What is that? I will share, because being a chairman of National Biodiversity Authority, we have completed almost the process, but final stages may have. There is a Dapur village in Nashik district in Maharashtra. One company called Advanced Enzyme Technologies Limited have collected from 2002 to 2003, 2004 soil samples from Dapur village, which are randomly. Small village, about 200, 250 households. Now, by 2022, access benefit sharing mechanism. So they identified 2 microorganisms. I would like to also share Bacillus coagulans and Saccharomyces boulardii. With that, they prepared a lot of probiotics, and now that village is going to get 200 households or 250, 71 lakh rupees. Had they misused and abused the soil, these 2 microorganisms would not have survived there. They would not have got it. Simple soil. They have not used any other bioresources. From bioresources are available within the soil. So this we are going to shortly transfer this amount from National Biodiversity Fund account. And we have constituted a committee, because suddenly if you give so many lakhs to village, they are under shock now, actually. How come this? So there is a system we traced by, all these things are there. We are implementing NBA, and state biodiversity boards are meant for that purpose. So one example of soil, how a wealth from the soil, how, because the science has evolved so much, microorganisms are going to rule the in future. They are going to play a role in every, from antibiotics to pharmaceuticals to cosmetics to X, Y, Z. So the soil health and soil biota and the repurposing of these harmful subsidies, how they are causing, and if they are retained, this is one example, sir. Undisturbed soils and unfertilized or unspoiled, this has given. So this is a point I would like to highlight with a practical example. So friends, two more examples, one more example I would like to give. Sensitizing the political executive by what is biodiversity, general thing. When you speak, when we go for a music, there will be a small alapana and small introduction and all the things, small, starts with that. So, sir, biodiversity and so two examples, I convinced one or two politicians by myself. Orissa has given an order that 6 lakh palmyra trees have to be grown now. And Bihar is considering that ban on felling of palmyra trees, which are plenty in Telangana. Our fellows, I am from Telangana. Left and right, we are felling it. Left and right, almost now extinct ho jayega. Thoda din mein palmyra tree will not be seen in Palmyra. For various reasons, I will not go into time is a constraint. Now, what is that? Now, science has come into play that if you carbon dioxide increase in the ppm, I don't know the chemical reaction or whatever it is, the lightning will come very drastically during the rains and thunderstorms, and it has killing thousands and thousands of people who are grazing, who are on the roads and this thing. But the scientists and this research is going on. Already we have come to a conclusion that more number of palmyra trees retention is better, so that we can minimize the risk from dying. I mean, the lightning affecting the human beings. So this is going on, you can see in the Google, all news are spreading like anything. So to start with that, how biodiversity is important, why to conserve and protect biodiversity, by repurposing these things. These are the things, because communication, science is there and all these things which can ameliorate the social condition. But communication is the art and science. It is not that easy. Even if something is good, to say that it is good, it needs a lot of strategy. Though nobody will, even highly intellectual person also will not accept, because he is already having a fixed ideas. So learning and relearning is the process. So for that, to push from paradigm shift from one direction of thinking, taking a U-turn or side turn or small turn, you need convincing capability of articulation of the whole subject matter in a presentable way, in a convincing manner, I mean to say. So these are the issues. And the last thing I would like to mention, that Telangana being the first state which has come out with a state biodiversity action plan in the country, thanks to UNDP again, Madam Angela, and this organization has done wonderful this thing, and coordinated with Dr. Valli Manikam has not come. She represented Center for okay. She has played a major role from this thing, and scientific and bringing out all the technical people together. Now they are going for the little bit of, state biofilm. This, why I'm telling state biodiversity action, post adoption of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, this has come. So in this, definitely our today's subject matter, the point is being well laid out, and it is needs to be implemented. We have already, we are having state biodiversity strategy action plan, and this document of ICRIER will go hand in hand, and it will definitely play a major role, especially the state planning board of the Telangana. They are all, the politician also is an intellectual there. So we can easily convince first him, then we can move forward. So this is what I would like to share, and thank you for your kind attention, and thanks to everyone for facilitating my presence here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to all the dignitaries on stage for your remarks. We can now move on to the next session thing of releasing the publication. So it's our the joint report by ICRIER, UNDP, and Biofin, titled "Repurposing Agri-Food Policies for Biodiversity," co-authored by Dr. Reena Singh, myself, Dr. Ruchi Pant, and Dr. Ashok Gulati. If you could all stand up and unbox the report. I request all the participants and the guests now to move to the right-hand side of the room for the group photo. And after that, we can take a short tea break and then reconvene for the technical session.
He will be just.
Yeah. So first we go out for the group photo on the right side and then the tea break on the left side of the room. Welcome back, everyone. To begin our technical session, I would like to inform everyone that Dr. Gulati will be moderating this session. And we can begin with our presentation on the report by Dr. Reena Singh.
Yeah. Good morning to all, and it's a pleasure for me to give a brief overview of this work, which has been jointly undertaken by ICRIER and UNDP under the Biofin initiative. And the authors of this report, we all four are here, me, Purvi, Dr. Ruchi, and Professor Gulati. We have undertaken this work under the guidance of Professor Ashok Gulati, and Dr. Angela has also given few comments on the revision of the report, particularly on the executive summary. And we would like to thank all the stakeholders with whom we have consulted during the preparation of the report. After this context, I would just go straight away to the study, which is basically linking the target 18. And this study basically it is the first study which is linking the agri-food finances with the biodiversity. There are so many work which has been done with respect to with respect to just one or few incentives, one or two subsidies and their impact on biodiversity. But no exhaustive study has been done till date where the study has looked at the entire incentives, subsidies, and the agri-food space finances for the last 25 years. So this is the first study where we have tried to do this. And we have looked these finances for all India level. And we have also taken 3 pilot states, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, and Telangana. And why we have taken these 3 states, because Punjab is basically towards the negative side with respect to the biodiversity and the environmental degradation. Telangana, we have few positive developments where the state and the State Biodiversity Board, they're taking very positive steps for conservation of the biodiversity. And Madhya Pradesh, there is a mixed biodiversity. So we try to understand how these, the budgets and the policies, they are different in these states. Are they shaping the agrobiodiversity of these particular states or not? Everybody, in the inaugural session, the context of the Global Biodiversity Framework and the National Biodiversity Strategic Action Plan has already been shared, has already been discussed. So I'm not going into that detail. So I will just talk like this. We are straight away evaluating the target 18 and how we have done it. In this, we have taken the 3-step process. And the first step, what we have done is, like, if we have to see whether the incentives are positive, negative, mixed, or neutral, we have to first do the entire stock taking using the state and the union budgetary documents. So those were our major sources. And we have also looked at the CAG documents, and for the last 25 years, starting from 2000 to 2025. And we have looked at the schemes because the government of India, they provide funds to the agriculture or any other sector in the form of the schemes. So those schemes, they are spreading under the 8 ministries, as Dr. Gulati has already mentioned, and 46 schemes and 87 components. So year-wise, we have looked at all those schemes. And with respect to Punjab, we apart from the central government schemes, we have looked at the schemes of the Punjab state government, which is 14, and then Madhya Pradesh, which is 20, and Telangana, which is 19. And after that stock taking thing, we have tried to look at the screening of those particular schemes, whether how they are impacting the biodiversity. It's basically, we focused our study on agrobiodiversity. So although India has committed to 23 targets, we have focused our screening on these targets which are listed, which is the target 4, which is basically to manage diversity. It is at the species level as well as the genetic level. Then the target 7, which talks about reducing the pollution risk and impacts. Then the target 18, which is basically to minimize the impact of climate change. Then the target 10, which is the sustainable management of agriculture. Then target 16 is to promote sustainable consumption. And target 18 is definitely, we all know, it's to repurpose the detrimental incentives for biodiversity. So for each target, the National Biodiversity Strategy Action Plan, the NBSAP, as well as the Global Biodiversity Framework, so they have given different milestones, different output indicators. So we have collected our data sets based on those output and milestones. For example, if we are talking about reducing the pollution risk, or we are talking about the climate change, like for climate change, it's basically the greenhouse inventory data that we have captured for the last 25 years. Similarly, for reducing the pollution risk, how much is the fertilizer consumption is happening in over a period of 25 years. So all those data sets we have collected so as to screen whether we are moving with respect to the positivity in these targets or with respect to the negativity in these targets. So on that basis, we have screened the schemes on these for these impacts. Then based on this second step, if, for example, like fertilizer consumption is increasing, so that means the target 7 is getting impacted, and with respect to the increase in fertilizer consumption, if nitrous oxide is increasing, so that means it is getting adversely impacted. So we are saying, okay, it's the detrimental to the agrobiodiversity. So that's how all these 3 steps, they're interlinked. First is the stock taking, then we have screened it on that basis of target. If we are getting the direct evidences, okay, because of these schemes, because of these subsidies, or because of these incentives, there is adverse impacts on these targets. So we are categorizing it as detrimental, or with which having a mixed impacts, or which have a neutral impacts, and the positive. Basically, if you are saying positive impact means, or the detrimental impacts means, if that particular subsidy is there, if it is there with its presence, there is a adversity, there are biodiversity changes are happening. If it is not there, then those changes will not happen. So on that basis, we have categorized it into 4 different categories. And as we all know that the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, has 3 major objectives. First is basically so as to conserve the genetic diversity, so that is one thing. Second thing is where we have to meet the human needs, where the food security is there. And third is to the access benefit sharing mechanism. So we have looked at these 3 overall objectives of CBD also while evaluating whether our schemes and subsidies, they are positive, negative, mixed, or neutral. So that's the overall methodological framework. And definitely this is the first step that we have taken, and nobody has done it till date. So I will just say that it's still, I mean, there could be some scope of improvement, and once we will just, for the discussion, we will do this. So this is just the 8 ministries and different schemes from where we have taken this. And this is to show that under 3 categories, this is the income input support, development, and the safety net. Our agri-food spare budget is occurring, and fertilizer subsidy and food subsidy, they are the biggest items. And then there are other, there is income support, which is crop insurance, PM Kisan credit subsidies, and then the loan waivers. There comes under the income support. And then development, there are few schemes, agriculture R&D activities, and few like natural farming, then Krishi, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, Krishi Unnati Yojana, few of those schemes. They have developmental initiatives and National Mission of Green India. So this is just one picture to show the overview of the budget. Like the budget, it has increased, and this 2024-25, it's somewhere around 6,328 billion INR, which is basically 2% of the GDP and 13.4% of the total budget expenditure. And if we look at of that particular budget, as Professor Gulati has already mentioned, that fertilizer, the food subsidy, they are the major elements, and we have also seen their bank duty is very high. So I'm just giving you these 2 examples, how they are impacting and how we have evaluated on what basis we are saying, okay, they are detrimental and they are mixed or what. With the fertilizer subsidy, we know that the subsidy is basically skewed towards urea. It's basically 80% of the fertilizer subsidy is going 70 to 80% towards urea. So that's how even the NPK ratio is going in that direction. Like the farmers, because they are getting the cheap urea, so like 80 to 85% of the cost has been incurred by the government for the urea. So the farmers are applying urea, and that's the reason the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium ratio is it's actually skewed. And at 2022-23, it's 11.8 is to 4.6 is to 1. So that's the ratio. And it's 138 kg per hectare is the fertilizer consumption. It's basically on a gross cropped area level. But if with respect to the, if this higher nitrogen consumption, it's leading to higher greenhouse gas emissions. And as we can see, the trend, it's as the consumption is increasing, the greenhouse gases, they're also increasing. Now the state-wise fertilizer consumption, it has a lot of variation, and this is basically the fertilizer consumption based on the net sown area, and it's Punjab, it's 477 kg per hectare, and we have done this Telangana and MP. So Telangana is towards the middle, and then MP, it has a little lower range. Now what we are proposing, like, if the fertilizer subsidy, on one hand, Government of India is executing the soil health cards, and a lot of cycle, like in cycle 1, it's 25 million samples have been collected, and 107 million soil health cards have already been dispatched. And in the cycle 2, again, it's 27.7 million samples they have been collected, and 121.9 soil health cards have been dispatched. And then they have done this model village approach in 2020, 21, and 22, 23. Few sample collections have been done under this particular scheme. But the fertilizer subsidy is currently, it's not linked with any of the other schemes like the soil health cards or even the recommended dose of fertilizers which the agriculture universities, they are practicing. So it's currently, it's like, nobody is limiting the bags and all those supplies. If that could be linked, if we talk of the total subsidy, it is comprising this fertilizer subsidy, it comprises 39.6% of the total of the subsidies which the Government of India is giving, which is basically the food, fuel, fertilizer, and other subsidies. And because Government of India is promoting PM Pranam, and under this PM Pranam, like if any state is able to reduce fertilizer consecutively for 3 years, then they're eligible to get, that particular amount back. So as of now, I mean, there is no state which has got this benefit. And PM Pranam is also a new initiative, that is one thing, and till date, no state has been able to reduce it for the 3 years. It's maybe 1 year, okay, the Karnataka has reduced once, little bit, and in some state, okay, in 1 year, but not for the entire 3 years. So that is one thing that we would like to flag, like how it can be done. It maybe we can limit it, and another thing which Dr. Gulati is already saying, it's the deregulate it and give the direct benefit transfer support. And with another subsidy which we would like to bring to the notice is the food subsidy, which is the largest, like 800 million population of India. They are getting this the free food, and it constitutes of the total subsidies of 44.5%. And this food subsidy program, it's majorly the wheat and rice is getting procured. So they has the assured procurement, and that is one of the reason, like why the farmers, they are going towards production of wheat and rice. If we look at the cropping pattern changes from 1960s to 22-23, so there is an increase in the wheat and rice production area, and then the jawar, bajra, millets, all these ragi groundnuts, so there's a decline. So farmers, they are going towards those crops which have some assured procurement. And if we talk specifically, like the environmental impacts of the rice cultivation are very huge. The water is one thing, like you have to give 20 to 25 irrigations to rice with respect to other crops, which takes 4 to 5 irrigations. That is one thing. Another thing is the greenhouse gas emissions. If we just talk about the greenhouse gas emissions from the rice cultivation, of the total agriculture sector, it's 70.5% of the greenhouse gas emissions is coming from rice. And there are a few states like Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha, and West Bengal. They're the major greenhouse gas emitters. It's the total greenhouse gas emissions of these states which I'm talking about. Now, from rice and wheat to other crops. Like if you look at the fertilizer consumption, so we try to look at the fertilizer consumption of wheat, rice with respect to other crops. And since our pilot states is Punjab, Telangana, and MP, so we're just presenting specifically these 3 data sets. So we can see like in rice and wheat, the consumption is quite high. And whereas in our moong, these pulses and the oil seeds, we have the very low, lesser fertilizer consumption. So we can very well see where the fertilizer subsidy is going to which crops. Even in that particular state, there is a crop-wise deviation. One thing is the fertilizer subsidy is going to those particular states which have the highest fertilizer consumption. Like I showed that particular graph, like Punjab and other Haryana and few states where overall per kg hectare, the fertilizer consumption is very high. So that is one point. The fertilizer subsidy is skewed towards those states. And second point is, even in that state, there are few crops which are more fertilizer intensive. That subsidy is diverted towards those particular crops because they're using more fertilizer. So definitely the subsidy is going towards those crops. And if we, second point is the irrigation water requirement. If we look at the irrigation requirement, there are few like this paddy. It's definitely very water intensive crop. And so if there is a lot of water is going there, so all those irrigation projects is also going towards that particular crop. And then the power subsidy, because it's the electric pumps and those extraction of water is happening through those pumps. So even the power subsidy, irrigation subsidy is going towards that. So, and then if you look at from the air, the environmental, the greenhouse gas emissions point of view, again, the paddy, if you just compare it with other crops, it is towards a very high side. This is the overall continuous flooding all India average story. So if we talk about all these agriculture practices, they are bringing a lot of degradation in soil. It's a lot of deficiency with respect to macronutrients, and macronutrients have been observed. Then organic carbon content is very low. It's less than 0.5. And even the water, because that's agriculture is the highest extractor of the groundwater, and few states like Punjab, Haryana, Tamil Nadu and UP, I mean, they have this highest decline in the water table. And if we talk about climate change, which is basically agriculture is also contributing to the climate change, because it's 13.4% of the total emissions is coming from the agriculture sector. So, and the biodiversity is basically indirectly gets impacted by the climate change. So it's basically the agriculture is also contributed to it. And in the at the same time, if we just look at the map, it's more vulnerable to the climate change. So it's kind of a both victim as well as a contributor to the climate change as well as to the biodiversity. And livestock, it contributes to 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions from the overall agriculture sector, and the crops, it constitutes to 40%. So just to give of all these policies and all these degradation, what's the present status of agrodiversity in India? So if we are looking at the agrobiodiversity, so there are 3 different pillars which we analyze. One is on the basis of how the agriculture biodiversity, whether we have the genetic biodiversity for the future or not, and whether we have enough production diversity, and whether we have a diversity in markets and consumption. So with respect to genetic resources, we have very good diversity, and which even Dr. Pathak was also mentioning, we have different bureaus and plant genetic resources. We have different varieties and different kind of accessions we are conserving. Production, yes, we have different kinds of production systems, like 162 crop types are cultivated, 19 species are domesticated, but with respect to the markets and the area wise, it's just a few crops which dominated, just the wheat, rice, 7 crop species, they constitute 73%. And if we just talk about just wheat and rice, it's just 51% of the overall production area it takes. So we have categorized on that basis the incentives which have the mixed impacts, which have the positive impacts, which have the neutral impacts, like that. For TE 2024, which is the total agri-food sphere, the total the budget and the amount is 7,076 billion. And out of that, 2,673 billion is basically have the mixed impacts on the biodiversity, which is primarily comprising of the food and the irrigation subsidy, because both of them, they are contributing towards the, the food security targets. And then the biodiversity detrimental, it's primarily with respect to the fertilizer subsidy. But when we come to the state level, then even the power subsidy we have categorized as the detrimental. Then we have this biodiversity positive, which is 1,483, which is majorly the developmental schemes. And then we have the income support activities, which are coming under the biodiversity neutral. So as a percentage, it's the 36% mixed, 28% biodiversity detrimental, 22% biodiversity positive, and 13% neutral. And we have to definitely think of repurposing this biodiversity detrimental incentives to shift to the, at least to the biodiversity neutral, if not to the positive. So this is just a comparative scenario of the 3 states. And we can see that with respect to the incentives, Punjab, it's the incentives, they are more towards the negative incentive. It's basically the fertilizer and the power with there. The fertilizer, because they are highly, they are giving a lot of fertilizers, so the fertilizer subsidy is also being diverted there. So that is one thing. And then the state government is giving the free power. So power subsidy is coming there, so it's 52%. With respect to the mixed impacts is 27, then biodiversity positive 17%, and it's only 6% neutral. In Madhya Pradesh, we can see, okay, 35% is the mixed range because of that more of the food subsidy. And it has more biodiversity positive initiatives and incentives. And 20% is the detrimental, and then 14% is the neutral. And Telangana, it's the highest, 40% it's coming to be in the range of the positive, then 26% mixed, and 17% neutral, and 17% is the negative. So what we have seen during our study that as we are building, like the incentives, they are mostly skewed towards paddy. And we definitely propose that they need to be repurposed to other crops so as to encourage diversification. So we have, on the basis of the consumption of the inputs, like how much is the, the inputs is going to that particular crops with respect to water, power, and then fertilizer and everything. So paddy is definitely receiving more, and then with respect to other crops. And they're also, the paddy is also having the high profitability. So that's the reason they're receiving higher incentives, and the profitability is also high. So the farmers, they are going towards paddy. So this is what our proposal is. Whatever saving we are doing with respect to diversification from paddy to other crops, so that should be given to other crops. This is what has been proposed under our one of the policy brief for Punjab and Haryana. In Telangana also, we have tried to look at the cropping pattern range, and we found that even in Telangana, it is now moving into the footsteps of Punjab. Like in 2014-15, the rice area was 1.4 million hectare, but now it has moved to 4.9 million hectare. So that's a very huge jump, and it's not, with respect to the environment and biodiversity, definitely it's not a good trend. And because the government of India has also started procuring rice from Telangana, so that is also one of the reason. And we have tried to look at the crop diversification index. So India as a whole is kind of, it's a mixed, it's diverse, and it is. And Punjab, Madhya Pradesh is also in lines with India, but Punjab and Telangana, they are towards the monocropping trends. Telangana has is the first state which has brought out their strategy, biodiversity strategy and action plan, which is aligning with the global biodiversity framework. And they also have those biodiversity management committees, and they have those access benefit mechanisms very much well developed. And we definitely would like to propose Telangana that they should take the lead in demonstrating how to, become a model state for this reduction in the fertilizer consumption, because they are also doing a lot of fertilizer their consumption. And if they can successfully implement PM Pranam, and then other states can take that, learn from them. So this is the overall synthesis of our recommendation, that what we are proposing is that the fertilizer subsidy threshold, we could work out the threshold of the fertilizer subsidy. It's not like, it's everybody, they're free to just take whatever number of bags they would like to take. As per the soil health cards and recommendations of fertilizer, and the savings in fertilizer to be repurposed through PM Pranam. That is one thing. Another thing is that we reorient the agriculture policies from more food grains towards the diverse food grains, where Dr. Gulati has mentioned regarding the food coupons. Like, it's not only for wheat and rice, we should try to give for others. And then we should move away from the paddy skewed incentives to crop neutral incentives, where, for example, paddy is getting the higher incentives. So that incentives, they should be given to other crops. In Madhya Pradesh and in Telangana also, these crops are being promoted by giving the procurement bonus and other structures like 4,000, 6,000 to 7,000 per hectare. And then if we are growing pulses and oil seeds, definitely these are the net importer. If these crops are grown, it will definitely help India to become at least self-sufficient in legumes. And then if pulses and oil seeds, they have to be promoted, then we are proposing at least for 5 years, like whatever procurement they're doing under wheat and rice, so that could be diverted for their procurement. It's just the repurposing of that particular amount. And with this, if the rice is getting grown, if it is getting displaced, and definitely there will be GHG emissions reductions. So in the form of the carbon credits, the farmer, they can be getting that particular carbon credit to the farmers. So that way the farmer's income can also be, ensured. Thank you.
Thank you, Reena. Can you put on the that slide of 3 states, positive, negative? Yeah, this one. Before I get into the panel discussion, I would urge everyone to look at this carefully, because these are the 3 states we had a bit deep dive. Punjab had incentive structures that are in a way more detrimental to biodiversity. We can get into the details of that. Madhya Pradesh is somewhere in between. And right now, Telangana, where we are, shows that 40% of the incentives are positive to biodiversity, only 17% are detrimental. But I would add a word of caution here. And that is, in the last 10 years or so, in Telangana, the rice area has gone up from 1.4 million hectares to 4.9 million hectares. It's 3.5 times in 10 years. This is explosive growth of rice cultivation because of a lot of water being available, and that is free. Maybe it is the Kaleshwaram project or some other things that are going on. And they are groundwater, and they are on their way to becoming a Punjab. So don't get into that 17% today may become 42% or 52% tomorrow after 5-10 years. So be careful on that. So that's one thing that now we have a very distinguished panel. Reena, you can sit down.
Yes.
And can we have the panelists, those who are joining online? We have a distinguished panel, Dr. Guru Harminder Singh, Principal Scientific Officer, Punjab Biodiversity Board. Dr. Gurminder Singh, you are there?
Yes, sir. I'm there, sir. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Let me introduce the discussants first, and then I'll get back to you with the questions. And the first question will be to Punjab, because Punjab is literally in an ecological crisis. Dr. Prem Mathur is there, Senior Consultant, Alliance of Biodiversity International and CEAT. He is joining us online. Dr. P. Krishnan, Director, Bay of Bengal Program, Intergovernmental Organization. Dr. Krishnan, you are there? Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have right here Dr. Wali Manikam, Professor and Director, Center for Innovation and Public Systems. Right? Is he here? No? She is not here? Okay. And then we have Dr. Rita Pandey, former professor at National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, and Dr. Jeena T. Srinivasan, professor at Center for Economic and Social Studies. So let me start with Dr. Guru Harminder Singh ji. In Punjab, as you saw in the graphics, major policy incentives in terms of free power or huge subsidization of fertilizer and paddy consuming a lot of fertilizers, and then assured procurement of paddy and others. It seems that it is leading to a major drive against biodiversity. I mean, over a period of time, Punjab, which used to be reasonably diverse cropping pattern, has led to a concentration of paddy and wheat cycle. What is the way out? Is there a way out that we can find that farmer gets his due? They get the same income or even higher income, but the water can be saved, the soil can be saved, and biodiversity can be saved in Punjab. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And very good afternoon to everyone. Upfront, thank you, ICRIER, UNDP, BioFin for inviting Punjab in this very important roundtable. Our apologies, we couldn't make it, but in the second phase, we'll definitely be there. And we congratulate the ICRIER for selecting Punjab as one of the model states. And I joined the inception workshop, and I have also gone through very minutely to the report, which is uploaded, the complete report. And I also put up that to my chairman, PBB. Sir, I mean, you are the best person to understand the historical perspective of this issue. And after the independence and especially the Green Revolution, Punjab has given a lot of incentive under the various planning commissions, and then happened the Green Revolution. So we have a great history of kind of meeting the food security. But after 90s, the reverse section came to the fore, and is well documented, well debated in the state. I know these are very ominous figures which came out, and as a state, the matter has been seized, and there are certain political consideration which are leading to certain kind of incentives. But if you ask me as a biodiversity board, sir, or a representing somebody from the State Department of Science and Technology, there are two key things which we need to look into. That is, one is the MSP, which is of course driven by the central government, and other one is the power. And the third one is the fertilizer subsidy, which is again is a central incentive. So if we take this into account, this really changing the whole dynamics of our the way we produce our foods, and the ecological backlash which we are facing. Not only ecological backlash, also the economic backlash, because we are meeting with the farmer, and we know the yield are stagnated. But we understand that this very detailed report, I have gone through it. But few salient point, again, the power subsidy by state. It started way back in 2009. Then state government took a very bold decision to stop it, but due to certain political compulsion, is still going on. And now presently, beside the agriculture subsidy, we also have the domestic power subsidy. So that is the one reason. But coming back to agriculture, of course, this is one of the biggest incentives to the farmer to go for paddy. And if you take Punjab into consideration, the root cause is paddy. And as far as the state is concerned, and thanks to the judicial activism of the NJT, Supreme Court, CAQM at the Delhi level, things are really changing, sir. The state is being held accountable, and I can't tell you that how much effort at the state level is being put up to get rid of the area under the paddy and manage the stubble and do whatever under the under the sky which is possible to reduce the area under paddy. And if I just mentioned you, we now our state has banned the pusa, which is a long pusa variety, which is a long duration variety, and the farmer are still opting to it. State has banned it, but still there are sources. They are procuring seeds and they are taking, they're still cultivating that. This time around, there was a report yesterday in the paper that again almost 30 to 40% is under the pusa, and there is no administrative way of controlling that. The rice sellers has been directed to not to procure, but this is the one thing which is still there. But as far as state is concerned, the state is taking a lot of remedial measure. If I share with you, uh, we are promoting the DSR very effectively. One of the thing, because in Reena man presented, one of the major point is the methane emission, sir. And one of the major point is the methane emission. So state has recently, took a, undertaking a project where we really want to, you know, work this challenge into an opportunity, and we are looking at the carbon credits. For that, we are in touch with the ADB, we are in touch with the World Bank. We held a lot of discussion with the British High Commission where we want to do a pilot project. This is not done anywhere, and if it is done anywhere, we'll be very grateful that some information on the same is shared. We want to go for the sustainable agricultural practices, whatever being done in the state, whether the DSR and AWD, for the carbon credit end-to-end cycle projects. So we intend to do it on a 10,000 hectare area, especially in the Sangrur district, which is one of the district which has the highest area under agriculture and the highest yield and the most of the red category blocks as far as the groundwater is concerned. So what we plan is that we need to trigger some kind of a action which people will actually follow. And as per our planning, we'll be able to, beside the 1,500 rupees incentive which are presently going through DBT to the farmer who are going for the DSR, as per our understanding, will be able to incentivize them to around 60 to 100 extra money per hectare if they go for the DSR or AWD through the carbon credit mechanism. So that's the one thing which we are really relying upon. Beside others, sir, banning of the pusa variety, and a lot of focus is being put on the diversification. But as I said, sir, we did a number of publication in the public domain wherein this is specifically mentioned that MSP, unless there is a MSP or assured procurement of the other crops, farmers are not willing. That's why we are now again going to the carbon credit route. So these are the few things. But now one more thing which recently come to our notice is the I know it may be out of the domain of this discussion, but when we realize that area under paddy or area under agriculture somehow it started decreasing, because a lot of big cities, Ludhiana, Amritsar, Patiala, Jalandhar, Bathinda, due to a lot of urbanization happening across the highways other. So suddenly we are coming into a situation that we might have one issue of the food security, because there's so much of urban sprawling, and again this related to the environment clearance and other issues. But there's a new issue state is grappling, because we don't have much of the area to do remedial action as far as the biodiversity conservation concerned, or some any activity as far as the flora is concerned. So that is the one of the biggest constraints, sir. And stubble burning, good news for the state is, sir, from the 60,000 stubble burning incidents, last 3 years, we have this time with all the efforts, it has come to 10,000. Even though we were hoping that we will reduce it to zero, but that didn't happen. But we are very positive that next season, probably Punjab will show the way that we'll be able to bring it to near about zero or near about 1,000. So as far as that's my opening remarks, sir. We will get into detail. That is the key area where state struggling, but there are a lot of bright spots which I can discuss separately with the Reena ma'am. The state is working to get rid of this issue, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your initial remarks. I have a follow-up question, because your state is the real state that has the biggest challenge right now. As far as, let me first really recognize the great contribution Punjab made to food security of India. So hats off to those farmers and to the Punjab state as a whole. But today, Punjab itself, its nature, nature's resource endowment is in deep crisis, and we have to come out of that. The paddy area, which was 0.3 million hectares roughly in 66 when Punjab was carved out, today is 3.2 million hectares, more than 10 times. And the Punjab water table cannot support that type of a thing. Now, your DSR incentive of 1,500 rupees per hectare is a step in the right direction, but it's a very baby step. It will take years and decades. What we need is shift away from paddy. Now, the question that I have is, in your neighboring state, Haryana, has offered that anybody shifting from paddy to pulses or oilseeds or millets will get 17,500 rupees per hectare, right?
Yes, sir.
We have been pleading with the center, you double it up. That 50% state gives 17,500 and 17,500 the center gives, because the profitability gap between paddy and pulses is a large one. So whether you give MSP or whatever you want to give, that will not compensate for the high profitability of paddy. Okay. So the only way out is whether you call it carbon credits, whether you call it biodiversity saving credit or water saving credit. Our calculation is at least 35,000 rupees per hectare has to be given to the farmer for switching away from paddy to pulses, oilseeds, millets, because, and this will not be an extra money going out of the pocket of the state government or the central government, because they will save on fertilizer subsidy and the state government will save on power subsidy. So it's only a matter of chicken and egg, who starts first. The problem is Haryana gives only for 1 year. Now, next year, if his profitability is 35,000 rupees less than paddy, he again switches back to paddy. Whereas the saving to the state government and the central government is forever, literally. So I think if we announce a policy that at least for 5 years, the state government and the central government come together to give 35,000 rupees to those who are switching away from paddy to pulses and oilseeds. Is there a feasibility of that type of a policy? It is repurposing. Remember, there is no extra expenditure either by the state government or by the central government, because it's a saving in their power subsidy and saving in their fertilizer subsidy. Only a question of coming together, putting things together in a nice manner and winning over the farmers. Then there is a chance of farmers moving away from paddy and saving the biodiversity in agriculture.
Yes, sir, certainly. I mean, this is a great point. I must, compliment that, sir. And as far as state is concerned, sir, of course, we are studying very minutely what our neighboring states are doing, particularly Haryana, as far as, disincentivize the paddy cultivation, traditional paddy cultivation. And state has taken one small step, sir, in the right direction. If you may be aware that for the moong, sir, we are cultivation, we are again giving the 1,500 rupees to the farmers extra. And but still, sir, the old habit die hards. Ground reality is that farmers somehow it is somehow induced into them that they are still hanging on with the paddy, and maybe the spirit which have they shown the near the green revolution, somehow that is marginalized over the year. But still state is somehow whatever way state is possible, state is kind of motivating farmer through lot of campaigns, and wherever states financial allows it to provide incentives. And you understand, sir, sales fiscal health very well, sir. There's no kind of secret about that. But state still is trying its best. But still, sir, we're learning, we are studying, and the finding of this report, if it's I request you that once it's finalized, the phase 1, if it is referred to the Chief Secretary Punjab with a copy to the Finance Secretary and the Secretary Environment and Secretary Agriculture, sir, then we probably really can, think it over. Otherwise, sir, still this issue somehow come into discussion and then suddenly as that it reaches to cabinet, it fizzle away, sir. It gets fizzle away to certain political compulsions. So it's a negative effect on the state.
We understand the financial situation of the state, which is very precarious at present. And but for this type of an effort, there could be a big loan component from multilateral agencies, whether World Bank or not, in the name of green funds, or you are trying to save biodiversity, you are trying to save environment, and so on and so forth. And a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year loan can be easily sought from these multilateral agencies at very soft terms, less than 1% per annum. So I think since this entire discussion is about biodiversity and finance, I think we need to think out of the box to look at where the financial incentives can be put, which do not let the farmer profits go down. In fact, they will go up, but at the same time, we can save nature's resource endowment. That is the challenge. And I'm sure there are, if the state government doesn't have the money, something can be sought from the central government. If the central government doesn't agree on that, we can go to the international agencies to get that type of finance. But thank you very much for your intervention on this. Let me move on to Dr. Prem Mathur, who is working with the Alliance of Biodiversity International. Sir, could I ask, are there any best practices internationally where the financial incentives and biodiversity can be dovetailed with a positive outcome? Is there anything on those lines that you could give us the benefit of?
Thank you, Dr. Gulati. First of all, I am not really a person dealing with all the policy issues. So I'm a mixed presence in this group with highly qualified person talking about the different policies and the different schemes which are negative and positive to the conservation and use of agrobiodiversity here. But if you allow me, I would like to suggest some of the ideas which can go beyond the different policies, like you mentioned about the subsidy on the fertilizer and also on this food subsidy here. Based on the scientific evidence we generated in Alliance of Biodiversity International for the last 50, 60 years, what are the other solutions, other approaches, other systems which can really lead to the conservation and use of agrobiodiversity and protect biodiversity, besides what we're talking about? So with that background, basically, if you allow me, I have few points and a small presentation. And can I share my slide here?
Presentation, I don't know whether we'll have the time because we are already running half an hour late. But you speak your points, that would be well taken, and we can note that, and we can share your presentation later with anybody who is interested in it.
Okay, fine. Then maybe just a minute.
You can just speak the major points.
No, I will unshare the stop sharing here. So basically, actually, I want to mention here that there are some of the approaches which can lead to the conservation and use of agrobiodiversity. It's based on your report, which is excellent output of the synthesis of all the reports here. What I think is that promoting the agroforestry and silviculture system is one of the best approach to conserve agrobiodiversity, which can also lead to the household food security, and not only food, but also nutrition security, and provide additional income to farmers here. So this is the one of the approach the government should promote, which government is already promoting here. A lot of work has been done on the Wadi system here, on the Lakpati Kisan approach here. So where this is very well suited for the small and marginal farmer, for a small piece of land of 1 or 2 hectares here, where the farmer can grow kind of a trees species, fruit species here, vegetables here, and the small crops, marginal crop like millets, vegetables, all those things here. So this is the kind of one approach which should be promoted at the national level here. to conserve the agrobiodiversity. And this will also help us basically for availability of a local consumed food at the local market, easy affordability and accessibility to local communities here from the produce locally grown there here. As we already talk about the enhanced soil biodiversity is very important, and I will not go to the more detail about the importance of soil biodiversity. As Dr. Reddy has mentioned some very good example this morning about the protecting the soil organism, soil microorganism in this farming system here, how that can help in conserving the diversity and enhance the productivity of our system here. The next point is basically support crop diversification and varietal mixture here. As we already talk about that, we are basically confined to 3 crops for food security, rice, wheat, and maize here. So there is a need for crop diversification to promote this here. And government policy, as you already mentioned, the MSP is mostly for these 3 crops here. But recently, the government thought has changed here. And now the government is also providing MSP to other crops like the pulses, millets here, oilseed crop also here. So that is another issue here that, as you also mentioned, that the support for cultivating the legumes and oilseed should be given more subsidy for here. So this is the one of the approach here. I fully agree that we should support those kind of intensification for more crop diversification and also more number of varieties. I mean, just these 3 crops are being grown, but only few varieties are being cultivated, which are released in the system here. But growing of the different varietal diversity and with different crops will definitely help in conserving the agrobiodiversity in the farming system here. Of course, we talk about this leverages digital precision agriculture system here. Use of remote sensing, AIs, and precision farming tools can definitely optimize the input use here, like water and fertilizer here. So this is one of the things here that the government should have more incentive, more support for these kind of initiative here. That can also reduce the ecological footprints while maintaining the yields here. And these technology-driven approaches support biodiversity by minimizing overuse of resources.
Yeah, great. Any other point?
Yeah, there's 2 more points here. Then maybe I will just come here since time is short here. I some of my thoughts here about this here, about the policy here. The first one I want to support is biodiversity linked direct benefit transfer. That is what we also talk about here. The introduce of conditional cash transfer to farmers who adopt biodiversity in enhancing practices like intercropping, agroforestry, maintaining pollinator habitat. So those farmers should be given more subsidy to continue those kind of farming system here. There is a need for National Genetic Forms Act here. They establish a legal framework to protect and promote indigenous crop and livestock genetic resources. It's required. This will empower community seed banks, support participatory breeding, and ensure benefit sharing with local custodians also here. Ecological intelligence interface is again very important here. And there is a need to have a kind of agroecological innovation zones to be identified here. So designated regions as living labs where farmers, scientists, and startups co-develop and test agroecological solutions. And these zones would receive regulatory flexibility, funding, and visibility. And of course, a pollinator protection protocol is also very important. So government should mandate pollinator-friendly farming zones with restriction on pesticide use, incentives for flowering cover crops, and habitat corridors. This would directly support food security and ecosystem health. 2 more points here, agroecology in public procurement. As we discussed already here, that it requires government food program like midday meal scheme and PDS to source a percentage of food from certified agroecological farms here, and landscape level governance council. So there is a need to establish multi-stakeholder council at the watershed or agricultural zones level to coordinate land use, biodiversity corridors, and ecosystem services across farms, forests, and commons here. So this is what I thought about, that these are the other approaches which can definitely help in conserving and protecting agrobiodiversity beside what we talk about the subsidies shifting to other crops and other diseases here.
No, definitely. Thanks a lot for these suggestions. There are many ways to promote biodiversity. There is no doubt about that. But this particular study and this particular session is more on the financial incentives, how they can, this is the target 18. That's where our focus is. But definitely there are many other ways in which it can be, and we can't cover everything under the sun. So thank you very much for that. Is Dr. P. Krishnan there online? Okay,
Yes,
great. So, sir, over to you. Any good ideas that you can quickly give us? You have so many country flags in your background. Is any of those countries doing better than India
uh,
on biodiversity and finances?
yeah, actually, certainly India plays a major lead role here, and obviously, this will be something that we will be able to give to the other countries. And I'm not an expert in this agricultural domain. I have been a follower of your work, and then I would like to just to simply mention in 2 minutes. Thanks for the very inspirational study and then the beautiful presentation. I wish to take up a study maybe collaboratively with you and then under guidance for the fisheries sector, particularly the marine fisheries sector, and have a similar three-step process. I would like to pilot, and then I'll be looking up to your guidance. And earlier, I have taken up a study jointly with UNDP and then NBA, Ministry of Environment, on mainstreaming biodiversity for public finance, taking agriculture as a case, and which I already have presented in the last meeting. I'll share the report in the chat. Rather, now I'm here as a student, and I think there is a huge scope for replicating this study for fisheries sector, particularly in the context of by 2026, the WTO agreement on fish subsidies will be in force, and that has a huge impact it is likely to have on the current existing kind of subsidies in the region, not only in India. So possibly we'll take the study in fisheries. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks a lot. You seem to be a fish man. We would
Yeah.
love to collaborate with you. Please
Sure.
visit ICRIER's website. We have released
Sure.
a policy brief very recently called the Blue Revolution.
I saw
And
that.
a detailed report of about 100 pages will be coming in the next fortnight on the Blue Revolution,
Sure.
pluses and minuses. And just for the audience, an interesting fact nowadays, because there is a lot of trade tensions going on with President Trump on
True.
US-India trade. Our biggest agriculture exports to US are shrimps, all going from Andhra Pradesh here. But now
Yeah.
shrimps are coming up in a district in Sirsa in Haryana and in Churu in Rajasthan, where saline water is.
Inland
Finally,
saline waters.
going all the way to Haryana, and
Yeah.
then they are multiplying there in the saline water ponds and sending it back to Andhra for
Yeah.
exports to US. It's a revolution going on, very fascinating. So
True.
we would love to have you in our team and
Certainly.
dive with the fisheries in those ponds.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It'll be an honor, sir.
Okay, Dr. Rita Pandey, she has been working in National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, so I'm sure public finance, all the studies during the days of D.K. Srivastava and onwards, there has been a lot of study. Now, how do we repurpose all these incentives which are harming the nature, biodiversity in particular? Is there any study, any thinking in NIPFP and you in particular on those? Can you speak into the mic?
Yeah, NIPFP has been doing a lot of work for many, many years in the area of subsidies, right from, measuring subsidies to what is the concept of subsidy, to reform of subsidies, and also in the agriculture sector, and lately on environmental beneficial subsidies, environmental detrimental subsidies, etc. So given my training at NIPFP, I have a few comments on the report. But before my remarks, let me take this opportunity to congratulate the team and the institutions for this, because this fills the gap in the literature because we haven't, for the agriculture subsidy, um, deliberated or researched in detail that this report has done. And also ICRISAT and other agencies for inviting me here. Now, let me start my comments, just 3-4 brief comments in the order in which the report was presented. So one was concept of subsidy and measurement of subsidy. The report says the 3 major subsidies, I'm talking about only detrimental subsidies here. Positives are positives, we're not worried about them, except that they need to increase. But as a concept of subsidy, the concept has been used unrecovered cost. And you being economists, you know very well that it masks several things, producer inefficiencies in the system. So, well, this number is big, 2% plus of GDP. So when we talk about these numbers, we have to be, because the question is India giving that much subsidy to agriculture sector? So, you have this trade and various other issues that India has to deal with. So these numbers mask a lot of inefficiencies. So these are kind of, as they are in the budget. So these are not necessarily are all impacting the biodiversity negatively. As it is, the second point on this is that, well, these are total subsidies. Some amount of fertilizer is necessary. You mentioned in your morning interjection to kind of, for food security. Some amount of water, irrigation, etc. It becomes problematic when we exceed, we encourage to the extent that, we encourage overuse or inefficient use. So, that component is really, what it is. So we have to find some way of, getting there. Soil health card data and various other things, the scientists also say that this amount of fertilizer for this crop, for this soil, in this region, in this geography, etc. So little nuanced approach to when we present the number for the audience. So that's on the subsidy, and there are various concepts of subsidies available. But when you are using budgetary data, of course, this is the simplest, you can just pull the data out and start your work. Okay, so that's one point. The second point is categorization of subsidies. 4, black and white, positive, mixed, detrimental, etc. When fertilizer subsidy is detrimental, how is water subsidy is mixed? Because some amount of fertilizer is also necessary, some amount of water is necessary. When it becomes kind of, inefficient use or overuse, then it's an issue. So it's just, I'm trying to understand why fertilizer is under detrimental and why water is under mixed, because that also signals and give the basis for policy later. So that's my second point. And here also we can do a nuanced study, some expenditure mapping study that we've done as part of BioFin. We've looked at schemes component-wise, and we say this component is positive, this component is negative. On that basis, we've worked out the expenditure that's actually positively or negatively impacting the biodiversity. So some such exercise, diving deep into the data. We've done it for 117 schemes and 69 ministries or something, 47 or something. Okay, so that's my second point on the measurement and concept and categorization of subsidies. On the way forward, the suggestions given in the report by and large agree with every word of it, except that, well, there are marginal farmers, there are small farmers, tenant farmers who do not have access to all this, what we're talking about. How do we talk to them? When we say this is going to happen. So it's like, this is a group of people, whether owners or working in that area. So we have to be very sympathetic to them. Soil health card data already says that we are deficient in nitrogen and P and S and 56%, etc., etc. So we have to have a very disaggregated kind of a thing. You have three pilots in terms of states, but within the state, what's happening, it could be very, very skewed. So some people need to be helped, some people need to be, you have to handhold them to convince them that, well, this can be done in a different way. So policy prescriptions will change and will be more nuanced, so the state governments or central governments can actually be receptive to, given what happened with just 2 years ago, and you were the architect of the laws that I'm talking about. Um, uh, so yeah, the pilot studies to learn more about, how to operationalize these concepts or suggestions. And then, since we are talking about detrimental subsidies, so I thought, it would be uh, interesting and very useful to also look at the wasted side of it. I'm not talking about food that's wasted from the table. I'm talking about between harvesting and the table. So that may be a very interesting area to include in this concept, because too much pressure on production may uh, kind of, is useful, but may not be the only cause, to start with. So this wasted side of it could also be included in this, because that needs positive incentives or lot of investment by whoever can make that investment.
Well, great.
So,
Thanks a lot, pointing out some of the nuances within the definitional concept of subsidy. How do we treat in different four categories? I would say this is a very initial step. It's a very crude step, open for refinements. I can go a little further. You talked about inefficiency of the production system itself, whether we call it a subsidy, fertilizer inefficiency. I'll say we worked it out that 22% of the fertilizers being produced in the country don't go to agriculture at all. They are diverted away to others. So whether we should treat this as subsidy or not. So those refinements can be. Same thing we did for food subsidy. Food subsidy, again, 22% by 22-23 consumption data. If you look at the center, what center says we have given and what people say we have received from PDS, there is a 22% gap. And if you add states' food subsidy on top of it, the gap comes to 28%. So whether these are the subsidies going to the beneficiaries or somewhere else disappearing in thin air. So all those refinements can be done. But this is the start of the story, and why fertilizer is negative and why irrigation is mixed. We had a lot of discussions on these things. I can have another sitting with you, you being an economist, but I want to spend half a minute on the subsidy definition itself. The WTO is already dead and buried after Trump's tantrums on tariffs. There is another organization, OECD, which has a methodology called Producer Support Estimates. And they measure that for 54 countries on an annual basis. The PSCs of OECD countries is about 14% of the gross value of farm output. China, which used to be almost 1%, 2%, is also at 14% today. India is minus 14%, minus 14%. That means there are input subsidies that are being given, but there is suppression of the output prices through export controls, private sector cannot hold stocks and all that. So India on the PSC measure is negatively subsidized. That means it is implicitly taxed Indian agriculture. And that is to favor the consumer. So there is a huge consumer bias in the system. So, I mean, there are different concepts of subsidies and so on and so forth. But I think we can always revisit and refine many of these things. Because even within fertilizer subsidy, part is positive, contributing to, as you rightly said, to food security in the right quantity if you use. But are we using it in right NPK balance? So if that is totally out of gear, then we say, okay, broadly it is negative. That's how we have defined. But in each of these 46 schemes, there would be some positive element, some negative element. So you have to further refine, and that may be the way forward as we go. Yeah, on that. So this was first time putting all the finances and the biodiversity signals on the same plate and see whether they create a good meal or not. Dr. Srinivasan, you are sitting in Telangana, right? And Telangana you saw, and I gave you the picture, what is happening on rice. Anything you can suggest to the Telangana state?
Yeah, basically being the last panelist is a huge risk because most of the previous ones would have covered a lot of points. And being a non-agriculture specialist, I'm not an agriculture specialist, nor a public finance or a biodiversity. So I have additional risk while I speak actually. So having said that, let me congratulate the entire team for the excellent work. And it gives a very solid idea about the macro level, what is happening with the subsidies and how its impact on biodiversity, etc. So I don't have much to add on that grounds actually. I want to add a few points since you said that like it's a kind of the second phase is also coming and the larger goal is about the repurposing this thing. So my study is like a kind of giving few more points or a kind of extension about these things. So when you showed the classification of subsidies impact, you had classified into positive, negative, and neutral kind of subsidies. So I'm a bit worried about the neutral thing actually. Positive and negative, it's a clear case. Neutral subsidies, why I say so is with time and scale, maybe these neutral subsidies can also turn detrimental to the system. So that is something which we'll have to figure in, like when you classify the subsidy and the repurposing. To give an example, so the whole effort of micro irrigation, more crop per crop kind of thing, sprinkler irrigation or drip irrigation kind of thing. So that might be an efficient way at the farm level, but at the basin level, it may not be, because the efficiency gain can offset. It can lead to larger consumption of water at the basin level and can have negative impact. So what started as a neutral impact can over a period of time become very negative in terms of biodiversity. So similar example can also be thought about the solar irrigation pumps. So in the beginning, it might be a neutral, but over a period of time, it can. So I was like thinking about like again refining the classification instead of in terms of positive, negative. Can we really have a kind of scaling? Because you also covered other targets, 4, 7, and all that for grouping this biodiversity thing. So if you can have a kind of scaling, also impact scaling, like for example, it starts from -2 +2. So what are the most severe impact on biodiversity? And the policymakers can also identify where to target first and most importantly, like where the funds should be allocated. That's one thing. The other thing is like at the macro level, it is very well done study. So, but when you are talking about repurposing, I think, the next phase or next step should also have some micro level studies where, for me, it seems like the relationship is assumed to be static and linear relationships. So whereas if you adopt a kind of socio-ecological perspective, you can also incorporate the interdependency between the human system and the agricultural system. And also like the farmers' behavior are not necessarily always determined by the economic incentives. There are also other informational institutional factors. So, but this decision making, how the farmers make a decision regarding their crop cultivation and crop choices and input use will have an impact on the outcome of the subsidy. So how you figure this farmers' behavior into this? So some kind of micro level studies, maybe a kind of panel studies or discrete choice methods will be helpful in this. Okay. The other one is yeah, then if you are scaling this biodiversity, then from the policy point of view, you can also think of having a kind of category which has high transformation potential, like where the intervention you can start first, and those kind of subsidies are high transformation intention. For example, in terms of biodiversity conservation, a fertilizer subsidy can have a high impact rather than on biodiversity rather than some other kinds of subsidies given to the consumer. So where which kind of subsidies to target and all can be made more. So what I would like to say is that like public biodiversity is also has to be understood as a public. So no rational farmers would be interested to invest more unless it is supported, some kind of financial support is given. So that justifies the continuation of subsidies for producing positive ecological outcomes. So instead of, when you talk about repurposing subsidies, we can, instead of, considering it just as this income support or, input support or welfare tool, it has to be reoriented in such a way that it leads to the ecological restoration and resilience. So that will take care of the other things. So how the farmers who are adopting this can be rewarded using the same kind of fiscal tools that we have. So some of these things can be thought through in the next phase. That's
okay, thank you. One that instead of having four watertight jackets, it should be a continuous process from one end of red to another end of green, and in between different shades of gray, maybe. No, that's all these finer refinements. I'm just trying to think about one, you're talking positive incentives which are linked to promotion of, say, particular objective biodiversity. But there is already the biggest subsidy called food subsidy, which is basically wheat and rice. How do we make it biodiversity positive? That's the biggest elephant in the room, 2 lakh crores plus. And that is existing for the last 10 years, right? So how do we move away from it? How do we reorient it? How do we, maybe some good ideas you can think over. No, that's right, but this subsidy is already there.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
So question is, should we forget about this? Because
No.
this is having an implication on biodiversity, since it is food and,
so see,
wheat and rice, wheat and rice. So they produce wheat and rice, wheat and rice. And that's driving all other crops away.
No, that's the case. Like, we have to think in terms of outcome based. I'm thinking, I'm not an expert in this. See, what are see, if you have a kind of biodiversity indicators at the farm level, how the farmers' farming practices are enhancing the biodiversity. But then the condition is that you have to have a good data about the biodiversity itself. And again, biodiversity also has to be understood in very specific terms, because farm diversity is one thing and the associated biodiversity like pollinators and all that, nobody will be cultivating that. But that's an outcome of the certain practices.
Sure.
So,
one is having a policy for the farmer to promote that. But the biggest subsidy in agri-food space is food. What do we do with it?
Can I share a curiosity in me about this? Conducted a small survey in a community where I live. So 750 families. Each family has at least one house help. Okay. These people mainly come from West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, these areas. Now, this is a high-end condominium. So people are moving, the owners are moving to millets. Okay, so we're talking about organic, we're talking about this millet, that millet, cereal, etc.
Area under millets is going down still.
Yeah, still. So we are
Despite ICRISAT's
we are
flagging
fighting through the
millets.
laws, but to move. So that's on the consumption side. But I conducted a survey because my household help will last 10 years. They don't eat what the millets that we eat. Why? Because,
So
they
expensive.
think that they are moving in the right direction. They get wheat and rice.
Because they have seen you, they want to copy you.
Yes, rice to eat.
You
So
are
we
right.
are moving away. So we are talking about masses for which the PDS system is. It's not for us, not for you. So we have to be very careful of these choices that they make. This is one of the symbol of, they're moving away from poverty. They are kind of, what do you
So
call it?
consuming wheat and rice is getting away from poverty. This is symbol.
Yes, it's
We are recommending in repurposing food coupons of the equivalent value to them and give them option for 20 commodities. So that if they want to take milk in that money, or they want eggs, or they want millets, or they want pulses, they are more nutritious than just wheat and rice. So they can distribute. So that is what the repurposing is. Amount is the same. Yeah. So that's the way we are trying to move. Okay, I think I have been given a notice, served a notice, yes, that she has to leave, and Ruchi is looking at me, what is the time? You are not, but we started off 1 hour late. No, half an hour. Okay, so you are giving me up to 1:30? No. Angela has to go. Okay, open for, yes. ICRISAT's veteran, and this is Parthasarthi Rao. He has been holding the largest data set of ICRISAT at the district level for so many years. Veteran of ICRISAT. Yes, please. Can you speak in the mic, please?
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's regarding that, that moving up the ladder just by eating rice and wheat, you're absolutely correct on that, from millets to rice and wheat. But just the opposite is happening in recent times, in the last, say, 1 decade or so, particularly in urban areas, where people have become more health conscious. And in the process, many people many families, I mean, middle class, even rich families, are moving towards millets by paying, double the price of rice also, rice and wheat.
Double? Triple?
Yeah, minor millets, minor
But
millets are double the price.
that percentage of people moving away is very little compared to people moving away from millets.
No,
That's the
this
problem,
is a
because
trend,
that's the
new
mass
trend that
bottom.
has just started, mainly on health grounds and also, for other reasons. It's a new trend, and I am saying that this trend will only increase over time. It's not that it's going to stagnate. And secondly, even the processing industry is taking up millets in their processing in a big way by mixing millet with other flours and so on and so forth, wheat flour and all that. Particularly many multinational companies are nowadays come up with several millet products, which are,
Ragi biscuits, ragi biscuits by
Yeah.
ITC.
So these things are now catching up, and now it's no longer a poor man's food. It's more like a rich man's food.
So the question is, when the masses cannot afford it, that's where the problem is. So, yeah. All right. Any other? Yes, please. You had, and then there was, yeah. Yeah.
The thing is, regarding this study, I think the study is well designed, everything, but as far as biodiversity is concerned, it's only focused on one particular area of biodiversity, that is repurposing the fertilizer subsidy towards other crops. So which is, as far as the study goes, it's okay, you can't study everything in one study. But I would just say that one important aspect is the role of crop livestock integration, which should also be brought in or should be looked into in terms of for the
Sure.
to look at address biodiversity.
The cover page of this has some livestock.
So that is one aspect I was just thinking. Another question I have a doubt. You talked about the skewed fertilizer subsidy towards urea.
Yeah.
So the question is, if this skewed nature of the subsidy is somehow changed, I don't know how it will change, change without any financial implication to the government, change from nitrogen to the other crops also equally, will it make any difference to the biodiversity aspect? That is, will fertilizers become little less negative than what they are right now? So that's something I don't know. I'm just asking as a question. And of course, the last point I think I have is, yeah, there are several development programs which also address biodiversity. And I think these were mentioned here, but I think a slightly more detailed analysis of those development programs and how they contribute towards biodiversity should also be addressed and integrated into your study.
Sure. Yes, please. Let's collect the questions first, then I can respond, or the authors can.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, my humble close.
She had her hand first. Divya, go ahead. Yeah.
Couple of points, I'll make them quick. One is mainly a methodological one. Firstly, actually, kudos on the study. Really insightful. Very much looking forward to reading it all. For phase 2, I hope a couple of things to be considered, particularly on schemes, just picking up on what Gina has said, on schemes that have been categorized as neutral. And I'm thinking about the credit scheme and the insurance one. On the face of it, they might look neutral, but unfortunately, in the way they're the way they're implemented, particularly the credit and the insurance schemes, because they're tied to crops and then tied to the scale of finance, which means that the government estimate on what the cost of cultivation is what actually determines how much money a farmer gets for the loan. So very clearly it incentivizes, say in Telangana for sugarcane, you'll get up to 80,000 rupees per acre, whereas for growing pulses, you'll get 20,000 rupees per acre. So it's a clear disincentive to a farmer to actually cultivate pulses or millets here. And the same is tied to the insurance scheme actually. So the cost of insurance that the state government here had to pay was the reason why the Telangana government under the previous government actually moved away from PMFBY. And that also is kind of reflected in the millet area. One, farmers are not incentivized to grow them, but they also don't declare it even if they do grow it. They actually report something else. So they're not actually neutral as they play out into farmers' considerations on the ground, is one of the points I just wanted to kind of flag. It's not a criticism, I just hope it will be considered. Second point was on the PM Pranam, broadly agree on the recommendations. Just a thought is currently the scheme is tied to state level incentives, which is the state government will actually make efforts to reduce fertilizer use. But one of the things we've observed, say Karnataka, you've already pointed out, has seen the largest savings in fertilizer decrease in the past year, is their programs actually targeted districts that had high fertilizer use, versus a lot of other programs, say PKVY and MNF, which are targeting districts that already have low use. And so moving that incentive to a district or even a block level could go a huge way towards incentivizing districts to actually come up with programs that can reduce use potentially. So there was a second point I wanted to add on to the recommendations. Third one, my last point, which is I think like always the elephant in the room when I think about direct cash transfers and direct incentives to farmers, is who actually ends up getting this money. And this also again picks up from what Gina has already pointed out and what that money is used for. Sitting in Telangana, working with thousands of women farmers, I can tell you very often what happens is we already have Raitu Bandhu, PM Kisan. Our women farmers don't actually see a penny of that or a paisa of that. Excuse my Americanisms, but because very often the money goes into the bank account of the husband doesn't actually come onto the farm level. Second issue is civil society estimates say about 30% of farmers in Telangana are tenant farmers. Even NSSO estimates will tell you somewhere around 10-12%. In Andhra, in certain districts, our estimates again show up to 70% Krishna Godavari belts, tenant farmers. So without identification of farmers, effectively these become universal basic income for landowners rather than agri input or support systems. That, and I would really love to hear perhaps a room full of economists really reflect on that actually, on what can be done for that identification. Even within, say, rice, yesterday one of my colleagues might have presented our experiments on alternate wet and dry, where we've seen significant savings in emissions, water use, but to actually provide incentives for ecosystem services without identification of farmers, how do you effectively implement that? I don't have a solution, but when we consider reorienting these programs, this elephant in the room, I think, does need to be addressed, and I'd like to hear more of your thoughts on that.
Okay. This point was raised yesterday by gentleman there also. You want to repeat that again, or?
No, no.
Yeah.
I have a question and also an idea. I had a question. In your study, if you have identified the forces against or basically barriers to repurposing,
Mhm.
or something kind of a SWOT analysis, have you done that?
Mhm.
That's a question, and the idea is, I think, like yesterday we had discussion on what Dr. Srinivasan raised. My idea is maybe if you can give a weighted average to different subsidies and purposes, maybe then categorization becomes more, what do you say, more integral in terms of, or the force for repurposing becomes more clearer. So maybe that's a method you can think of.
Sure. Good suggestion. We have been discussing already on those lines. Let me respond to one of the critical points that you raised about tenants. First, the biggest subsidy is food subsidy. There is no issue of tenants there. Can we give them food coupons with 20 commodities that they can buy? So there is a diversified demand, which will ultimately give signals for more diversified production basket. Is there a problem in that? Tell me what is the problem? Give it in the name of the women. Huh?
No, I don't have major disagreements on that.
Yeah, sure. No. We are working on those lines. There is a political economic question that gentleman asked there. We were close to getting that through. I don't want to get into because the first high-powered committee that was set up by Mr. Modi in 2014 when he joined as Prime Minister was on restructuring of the food management system, and basically this one. We are very close to getting it through. Where the opposition came from? Fair price shops. 550,000 fair price shops are there. And at that time it was, if you give cash to them, there were two oppositions. One, what will happen to fair price shops? What will they do? They will become jobless. Second, there was another school of thought who said, this will go into the men's account and they will drink liquor and nothing will come as food. So these two extreme schools of thought. UNDP had done a study actually on this when you give it in cash or DBT. How much is the leakage in terms of misuse of that money into liquor rather than food? 4%. When that study it was done under the chairmanship of Mr. Shanta Kumar, who was the food minister during Vajpayee time. And we had worked it out in that committee. I was a part of that committee. 46% was the leakage in the public distribution system. And that report is on the website of FCI. You can see that. So when we gave a presentation to the Prime Minister, he said, this must change. This 46% leakage cannot be accepted. But then this fair price shops things comes in. Some liquor and women and all those things will come in. What was the final solution? That you introduce POS machines in every fair price shops. Today, 95% of fair price shops have POS machines, so that point of sale with their fingerprinting, centralized system. Still there is a leakage. The 22-23 NSS data, what it says, 22% doesn't reach those intended beneficiaries, right? So from 46% leakage, we have come down to 22%. Can we plug it? And we feel we can plug it. 22% leakage means 40,000 crores plus. 40,000 crores plus is not reaching the intended beneficiaries. This is the biggest scam, annual scam. How do we do that? So there's a lot of data being available today, and that's where the tenant issue comes in. We are already looking at 7 different data sets. You know, in economics, there is a simple principle. If you are giving a thing highly subsidized, almost free, there has to be a rationing in terms of quantity. That you want free wheat and rice, 5 kg, not unlimited. But when you are giving urea, it is costing you 100 rupees, you are giving at 15 rupees, and then unlimited amount you want to give. This is a disaster. That's what leads to leakages. So either you say on the basis of your soil health cards or your cropping pattern in a particular state, you will get this fixed quantity. After that, if you want to buy, you will have to buy at market price. That's like gas cylinders. So there are sectors in which you can do. If you do not put quantity controls, then this price subsidization does not work. It will lead to disaster, and then you have to go via the income support route. Right? Not that income support route is totally foolproof. There would be some issues, there would be this. China has already done it, madam. Okay? And I asked them, what do you do of the tenants? We tell and advertise that this person has got this much money. Either you adjust in his rental or you transfer him there. So if the political parties at the top give a priority to this, Prime Minister Modi says he has been able to get many people from the gas cylinders out of that subsidy. It was through communication, making it, but this is for these people, not for you people, right? Otherwise everybody will queue up. I will also queue up, 500 rupees ka cylinder mil raha. So it has to be put on a political priority. What we are looking at to solve this tenancy, it's a well-recognized problem. And today we have a data set, soil health cards, Kisan credit cards, crop insurance. There are 6, 7 data cards. Fertilizer sales data has been collected for so many years. So there are 6, 7 data sets that we are trying to triangulate and open a portal that if you are not captured within this, PM Kisan, which is the landowner one, all these things. You know, from Kalia, this was the criticism, this your Raitu Bandhu, that was the criticism, and then Kalia included even the tenants and others. There was misuse there also because everybody wants to become a tenant then. So no policy is going to be totally foolproof, but if we can improve the situation from this one, and right now we are working pretty hard on those data sets with the government agency, which is supposed to do these innovations using AI, ML, and all these things. Hopefully we will find a better answer than the Chinese have done. Chinese don't subsidize fertilizers, don't subsidize power, but they give to each farmer. This is on new basis. Last year, they gave about $25 billion as subsidy. So you have to innovate, find out, you can try it in a small scale before taking it, but these new innovations in policies are must to do the repurposing, because the current set of policies are damaging to environment and biodiversity. But if we keep on saying, oh no, this can't be done, this can't be done, this can't be done, then what you are doing is disaster. They keep on doing that disaster and get drowned into it. We are not as food insecure as we were in 60s and 70s, therefore policies need to change. We have deregulated the diesel sector, we have deregulated the petrol sector, why can't we deregulate the fertilizer sector? You want to help the farmer, give them directly, deregulate the sector, things, all these NPK imbalance, this, that, diversion, everything will disappear. So, anyway, those are at least our views. We welcome all views and we are ready to consider those views from those who are online or here. And this is not the end of the story, this is just the beginning of the story of rethinking on some of those existing policy frameworks. Anyone else? Yes, please. Yeah, sure. Please speak into the mic. No, it is necessary for others. It is being recorded, so you have to be there.
Yeah, I'm working for last 30 years. I toured almost majority of the villages as and when the new method of practice initiated in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana.
Sure.
I toured 3 years of implementation, system of rice certification, zero budget natural farming, other methods and practices, DSR method or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sir, I came to know that I brought to your humble submission. See, demand management models cannot be effective as long as policy environment and supply side. See, water efficiency mechanism is a myth unless promoting demand management initiatives. Another thing is that converting of paddy plots. For example, earlier, most of the land is under rain-fed or they're cultivating plain areas. They are converting, they are depending on rainfall or irrigating through pumping with bore wells or whatever it is. Once they moved from converting of paddy land into converting of paddy lands, it is not possible for moving towards ID crops because of more rainfall comes crop failure due to more rain, more moisture. So it is cautious that moving towards paddy to non-paddy, it is difficult. So possibility crop rotation, paddy followed by paddy, and maize is going on some Krishna water delta or Godavari delta or wherever it is, assured irrigated areas. See that that is also should be taken care of that. Shifting one method of agriculture method to another agriculture method. But in between, see, I toured all the zero budget natural farming or community-based natural, LP community-based natural farming. I have interacted the district project managers. What they're telling, see, 3 years, how it is possible to bring into the normal conditions. See, they incur losses. They got low production. So in between these moving one method to another method, they incur losses. See, who will compensate this method? Low production, but they are not using any chemical fertilizer and pesticides. At least to provide remunerative prices, assured prices. There is it's a sensitive subject, sir. What they are telling that it's a punishment job. No, everywhere in every village, they have formed centers. There is a conventional NPK center is a Raitu Bharosa Kendras and conventional farming centers, natural farming centers, where nobody is going for the natural farming centers. So telling that nobody is going, nobody showing interest. Only 6% of farmers area under natural farming. What about the remaining? How to scale up this initiative? See, these type of things. Another thing is NPK. Already discussed that. No, difficult to. For example, more rainfall. You see, more rainfall directly related to must and should use nitrogen fertilizer. Without using nitrogen fertilizer, crop cannot sustain. See, these things, no, all these things are taken to consider, moving towards one method to another method. One best practice says, supposed to provide some incentive mechanism. And also the converting one seed paddy converted to plain area to paddy lands, not possible. So, for example, some projects are coming, some in new areas, supposed to be cautious, supposed to be aware, supposed to be promoted through civil society organizations.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. But like,
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to give my inputs. The fertilizer industry is aligned to the key objective of biodiversity conservation, and it suggests the following policy changes and programs for balanced use of fertilizers and for protecting biodiversity. Future fertilizer-related policies by government should be framed not only for the food security, but also national nutritional security and food safety, keeping in view the environmental and climate change aspects. Policies those encourage balanced plant nutrition, including secondary and micronutrients, for increased crop production, farmers' income, and reduced emission of greenhouse gases. The policy of NBS is aimed to reduce the use of fertilizer nutrients and to encourage the balanced use of N, P, and K. Therefore, urea must be brought under NBS. Policy framing should encourage the use of innovative and specialty fertilizers like water-soluble fertilizers, liquid fertilizers, biofortification with micronutrients, nano-fertilizers, biofertilizers, organic manures, PDM, biostimulants, organic carbon enhancers from CBG plants, thereby supporting the common objective of biodiversity conservation. Soil Health Card scheme launched by Government of India aimed at using fertilizer nutrients as per the soil tests and achieving balanced application of fertilizers. However, inadequate capacity to handle and analyze such large number of soils and inability of most of the farmers to interpret the fertilizer recommendation does not allow the Soil Health Card scheme to achieve the objectives effectively. Hence, government should provide training and assistance for the same. Another important policy introduced by Government of India in 2015 was coating of all urea produced in the country or imported with neem oil. So in this regard, government is promoting and supporting the planting of neem trees in the premises of fertilizer plants to source neem oil for producing 100% neem-coated urea. Planting of neem trees also help in improving the soil fertility and water holding capacity, acts as a natural pesticides, help in reducing the air pollution, controlling soil erosion, and increasing the sequestration of carbon. The practice should be encouraged. Policy-backed, specially designed pilot projects based on soil health cards should include the introduction of use of technology, awareness about mismanagement of fertilizers, use of micronutrients, and a robust supply chain infrastructure. These are few points.
thank you, madam. You had the last comment.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. A very well-prepared document, of course. Sir, I have a few observations because paddy was, of course, identified as one of the crops which produces highest GHG emissions. But I don't know how it was compared. The highest producers of paddy is West Bengal and UP, where the fertilizer consumption is less than half if you compare with Punjab, Haryana. It's one of the lowest. Most of it is rain-fed. So the subsidy on power is of no consequence. So when we compare, we have to compare in totality. A major area which grows paddy, 17% in West Bengal, and I think just about 14% in Uttar Pradesh, where the fertilizer consumption is low. Power for irrigation is very little. It is mostly rain-fed. How are we comparing that with Punjab, Haryana, which is the both? That is one thing. Secondly, uh, the food coupon idea is very good, but at the same time, food preferences are very much regional, region specific. Even within a state, these are very much region specific. So if we go for that kind of a policy, that policy should be not a one straight jacketed policy that wheat, rice, AVO. You can identify that cereals, pulses, oil seeds, eggs must be included, I feel, and how much diversified it is in terms of when we talk of rice or wheat or any other crop, we also have to think about the varietal biodiversity, which we are losing. Now, the farmers, they produce certain varieties, certain quantities of those varieties for their own consumption because there is no market. But if we open the market in terms of giving a coupon and one can go and buy as per one's requirement or one's preference, maybe we can support this kind of biodiversity also, which must be kept in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. I think in the program, there is some 10 minutes summary and way forward. Ruchi, you like to go first? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So first of all, let me thank everyone. I think we have got some wonderful inputs for our next phase. And I'm also suggesting if there are some people who haven't really, because it's the report has just been made available. I don't think everyone had access to the report. So if now that the report is there, and if you have any further inputs for the next phase, please let us know. You can send it to us by in writing also. I'm sure there are email IDs, etc., in the back somewhere for ICRIER. And so that is one. And I think we got some inputs on the micro meso is something which you have been talking about, Dr. Gulati, and I think, and micro also, we got good inputs on micro level and more nuanced work, which, as you also mentioned, that in the next phase where we are actually planning to prepare a roadmap, I think these inputs are very, very useful, and we'll definitely integrate this. And if need be, we can also have another smaller consultation to once we are really ready with the methodology for the roadmap. This is my suggestion, and nothing more to add. I think we have had some very good inputs today, and thanking ICRISAT from my side, from UNDP side, for hosting us here. And that's all, I think. Over to Dr. Gulati.
Well, I think there is very good suggestion already on the table, starting with our chief guest and chief host, and then the keynote address that we had from all of you. We have noted down all the comments, and we are going to mull over those. We are looking at best practices internationally, domestically, in a particular state, or at a very local micro scale, how to reorient this entire thing. But we are also going to refine this in terms of methodology, in terms of classification into those 4 categories. But you can imagine when you are collecting the data from 8 ministries, 46 schemes, 25-year data, and making sense out of that, and sometimes data, there are different sources and different nuances within the data. And you rightly said, one particular policy, 2 lakh crores, it has positive, negative, how much is negative, how much is positive? These are not easy answers. And therefore, we welcome any comments, how best to refine that. If they have worked on those issues, that will help. So we are very much open to those suggestions and comments, observations. But one thought that we also shared yesterday that is coming up interacting with the NGOs NGOs are working at the ground level. And it's a very micro, small, it can be large in terms of number, but very dispersed, and scale is very small, 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 small. Can we have some standardized methodology for capturing the impact of those practices, products that they are using on the biodiversity issue? But remember, this particular study is primarily focusing on target 18, that is incentives, disincentives for biodiversity. And when we talk incentives, disincentives, primarily it is the public policy and how much finance is flowing those through. So other targets we listed which could be relevant in this, but what weight should be given to this versus that, we have been looking at international literature. Has any country done that type of an exercise where they have found a common index by weighting those 7, 8, 10, not 23, but even 8, 10, and on what is the basis of that? We haven't found one, but if you know anything about it, that would help us to look into. We are going to apply our mind. We are committed to this issue, and hopefully we will come up with a product that we can defend, and the UNDP can feel happy about this, showcasing this as a product for many other countries to replicate maybe or not. Yeah. So that's our roadmap to this. Story has just started. One thing more that I feel, which the biodiversity group and biofin group has to do, in the last 10 to 15 years, everybody is talking about climate change. And there is massive amount of money to have resilience against climate change. From IPCC report to, so it has become a global phenomenon today. You can't talk of agriculture without climate change. But that story, biodiversity is losing, has been losing. Same thing was global warming is happening not today, but for the last 30 years. Suddenly that catapulted to the top of the concern of everyone. How did it happen? But on biodiversity, still the game is not elevated to that level. And therefore there is no biodiversity fund of the magnitude that World Bank is talking for climate change or others. That requires good advocacy. And you have to publish those results not only in academic journals, but also in public media, print media, electronic media, and elevate the game. And that's the job. I'm coming from agriculture side. I'm not a hardcore biodiversity person. This is one thing that is being added, because all these years we are trained to look at how to raise productivity. That was the concern of the country. Efficiency, competitiveness, exports, this, that. Biodiversity, now we are hearing something, but it needs to be. So there has to be in the roadmap forward, and this is for UNDP, they have to invest if they want this to be taken up at a higher level, at a multilateral level. Then there is a lot of advocacy based on research findings and based on good work. It cannot be just opinions of the people. It has to be based on this and the impact, data-driven research, evidence-based. So that's what my roadmap for future at a macro, global level, macro level, meso level. Can we pick up Telangana as a state, model state? Can we arrest that fall on the paddy front? Or within the state, can we make one district or one block as a sample block where we can show this has 3 times different biodiversity than any other, and therefore the benefits and the income levels of the farmers and the sustainability issues are all taken care of. If we can create that type of a prototype success story, then I think we have done a part of the justice to our planet, to our farmers, and to the national concerns. These are a few ideas from my side, but we are open if those who have not been able to get a hard copy of this, there is a link that Reena can share with anyone, or Rahul can share, or Purvi can share, and they can download this entire report from the website of ICRIER, and maybe UNDP also will be putting on their website. So this is in public domain, it is open access, and this is a first attempt on this target 18, and hopefully it will continue. May I request now Dr. Sondra Pandey.
Sir, I won't take more than 2 minutes, sir. Thank you for your time. First of all, I'll start by thanking ICRISAT DG, Deputy Director General. In particular, I'll name Dr. Guldeep Singh. When Madam sent a mail about hosting this meeting at ICRISAT, we got reply within 2 hours actually. And then he was ably supported by Madam Purnima and others. And I want to thank you especially, sir. 2 days has been very learning for me. Personally, I learned a lot. You and your team of Reena ma'am, Purvi, and then Rahul, they did an excellent job. They brought all the material all the way from Delhi. And Madam Rita Pandey, thank you for coming here, because as soon as Madam landed in India, she was brought here actually. So that she was associated with Biofin for quite a long time. I want to thank my own team of the RR, particularly Angela has made her travel all the way from Delhi to be here with us. And then Dr. Ruchip and Nupur Sharma for facilitating this meeting. Yesterday, we had a very fruitful interaction with all the NGOs working in Telangana, sir. Sir has listened to them very carefully. The WAS and DDS, the SEED, and then we had CGR. They are doing very fundamental work, like Sa was saying, they do it at their own scale and level, which we will try to consolidate. They need a platform to get it consolidated. We work very closely with Telangana Biodiversity Board. Now, thank you so much for your time. And thank you all for coming here. There are so many ICRISAT stalwarts here. I don't know many of them, but thank you so much for your time. And Telangana Agriculture Department is represented by Dr. Sudhakar Babu, sir. He is handling one Sameti, sir, actually. Telangana State Agricultural Extension Training Center, where we gathered, last week, we gathered 98 mid-level officers of this particular state, and that has never happened, sir, actually. So thank you to sir also to make it here. Thank you so much for everybody to come here. I think the lunch is ready. Thank you, sir.
Are you inviting us for food?
Yes, sir. Lunch is ready. Ready.
Thank you.
For food, we can just go to left side in the cafeteria, and the food is on the ground floor.
Yes. Thank you to everyone. All those who are online, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
For your ideas and opinions. Thank you.
ఇది తీసేనా రికార్డ్ ఆపేద్దాం